to be recognized.
It's so significant for your acknowledgement to be recognized. From the heavens and the earth, then he spoke the light into the darkness. Day 2, the waters are set apart. Day 3, green stretching border to border. Day 4, sun and moon receive their orders. Day 5, creatures in the water and all over. Day 6, blew life into man and all the beasts. Day 7, he rested, so we praise and feast. Shabbat shalom, Shabbat shalom to all my Aki. Shalom, Shabbat shalom to all my Akodi. Shalom, shalom, Shabbat shalom.
Baraka atah.
Now read scriptures.
And then feast.
And then feast. Yes, hallelujah, Yahuah. For this is the day that Yahuah has made. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. If you are an able body and you're able to stand, let us stand at attention before our Abba Yahuah as we face towards his eternal city, Yahushalom, also known as Jerusalem. As I blow the shofar before our Abba Yahuah and all the heavenly hosts. Heavenly Abba Yahuah, we come before you at this time of the Shabbat. Abba, giving you all praise, honor, and esteem from all of us, O Abba, here on the Sarats, who you have created in your image after your likeness, O Abba. We come before you, O Abba, with humble hearts, contrite spirits. May our minds be affixed to you on this Yom. May we not speak our own words. May we not do our own desires. May we not do the things that pleases us, O Abba, but what pleases you. Abba, we ask that you forgive us for all of our transgressions that we have done as your people. Those that you have opened up our eyes, O Abba, to this truth, restoring all of your commandments unto us, restoring all the feast days unto us, restoring your calendar unto us, and most of all, restoring your wonderful name unto us, O Abba Yahuah. And so we ask humbly, forgive us, O Abba. Do not deal with us according to our ways, but deal with us according to your tender mercies, according to your love, your faithfulness, and most of all, for your name's sake. Abba, we ask that you would open up our hearts and our minds as we study your word today. Abba, we ask that you would go before us on this Yom. Direct our footsteps, O Abba. We pull for all the Mishpachah, all the Akis and Akodis, all throughout the Arats, who call upon your name and seek your face, O Yah. We also pull for our Mishpachah of the flesh, and our friends and our co-workers who do not know you, but you have allowed us to share and plant the word in them, O Abba. May you give the increase, O Yah, so that they too may become part of us and dwell in your sight for all eternity. All these things we bring before you on this Yom, O Abba. TURAH, Abba Yahuah, for all that you do for all of us, O Abba. You do so many things that we are not even aware of, and yet we give you praise and honor and esteem for these things. We bring all this before you in the mighty name of your Ben Yahushua HaMashiach. Hallelujah, Yahuah. Hallelujah, Yahuah. And hallelujah, Yahuah. Amat. Rumamu Yahuah. Amat. Something about Shabbat that just feels so different. It just hits differently. I want to thank each and every one of you for being here. You don't have to be here, and I thank you for that. I know this. I ask that Abba Yahuah have us to grow together as one body before him, for we all belong to him. None of us are masters over each other. We are all Akis and Akodis. And I tell you, when I say Abba Yahuah does above and beyond all that we can ask for or think, he showed himself out again, Mishpachah. I want to thank all of you who helped our Cody Tanya, those of you who also helped our Cody Shannon, and those of you who have helped one another in Palal, and also just being there with words of encouragement. We have so many things that are so negative in this world. We don't need us to be negative with one another. Let us be those that love one another, not only in word, but also in deed, Mishpachah. Okay, so with that being said, and so just give you an update. Our Cody Tanya is back in her home. She just left here about an hour ago. All praises to Abba Yahuah. He is so faithful, even when we're faithless. Even when we're crying our eyes out and we have tears running down our face and we got our face buried in our hands and we're just wondering where is our help going to come from? Well, we know what the word says. Our help comes from the hills. Our help comes from Sion, from Zion. Our help comes from our Abba Yahuah, who hears the cries of his people. Never think that you're alone. Even when you're in your most desperate moment in your life, Abba Yahuah is there, Mishpachah. He is not a man that he should lie. Will he not do what he says? Will he not keep his promises that he has given to his people? Yes, he will. Yes, he will. He shows himself constantly to be faithful. So let us always put our trust in him, not in any man. Yes, he'll work through us, but our trust is in him and him alone. Hallelujah. Okay, so with that, I want to read a word before we get into our TURAH, our Tanakh reading. One of our Akis, and I'm going to mention his name, wanted me to share something out of Alap Shamuel, 1 Samuel, chapter 3. I'm going to be reading out of the scriptures, and we are going to read verses 9 to 11 here. Many of you have heard this before and read this. And so it says here in 1 Samuel chapter 3, verse 9. So Ali said to Shamuel, go, lie down, and it shall be, if he calls you, say, speak, Yahuah, for your servant hears. And Shamuel went and lay down in his place. And Yahuah came and stood and called as at other times, Shamuel, Shamuel. And Shamuel answered, speak, for your servant hears. And Yahuah said to Shamuel, see, I am doing a matter in Yasharal, at that both ears of everyone who hears it shall tingle. Your ears it shall tingle. When you came into this truth, I'm getting chickadee bumps right now. TURAH to the Aki that sent this to me. When you get the truth, your ear starts tingling. There's this vibration that goes on. I don't know if any of you ever had that? Where you get this tingling in the ear and it almost feels like it's fluttering. Have any of you ever experienced that before? Let me see that in the comments. Khan, yeah? Mm-hmm. I have multiple times. Yes. Hallelujah. That's Abba Yahuah. That's him. I'm not saying every single time that happens, but when you're hearing something that is true, you get this fluttering in your ear, this tingling in your ear. Abba Yahuah is telling you, that's him. That's him. Now, we don't go by feelings, but every once in a while, he'll just remind us, kind of tap us in the butt to say, keep on going, son. Keep on going, daughter. You're doing well. You're on the path. Keep on moving. You're doing the right thing. Hallelujah. Okay, so let's go here, and I'm getting ready to turn off these comments because, again, it is Shabbat. Let us put all of our thoughts on him. And I want to thank all of you. I hope all of you had a chance to say Shabbat to one another, Shabbat Shalom to each other, giving greetings to one another as we always do. We also accept and we welcome all of you first-timers that are in here. We are a digital body of believers here on YouTube, spread out all throughout the Arats on the earth. And we come together for this time, a day that has been set apart to our Abba Yahuah, a day where even the Shamayim, the heavens, we're aligned, in tune, on the same time frame as what's going on before the throne of Abba Yahuwah right now. What's happening right now in the Shamaim, as it is in the Shamaim, so shall it be done on the Arats. This is what sets us apart, Mishpachah. This is why we are the Kadashim. We're the set apart ones who are in line, in tune, on that same, as people would like to say, frequency, right? To use a modern terminology. We're on the same mindset as Abba Yahuwah has instilled to his people since the days of old. Hallelujah. So we're going to go to Shemot, also known as Exodus. And I'm going to shut off these comments here. Hope everyone had a chance to say what they had to say. All right, here we go. Off with the comments. And again, I want to thank all of you for being here. We're going to start reading from verse 1 of Shemot, also known as Exodus, chapter 19. Hear these wonderful words. In the 3rd month after the children of Yasharal had come out of the land of Mitzrayim, out of Egypt, on this day they came to the wilderness of Sinai. For they set out from Rephidim and had come to the wilderness of Sinai and camped in the wilderness. So Yasharal camped there before the mountain. And Masha went up to Alua Elohim, and Yahuwah called to him from the mountain, saying, This is what you are to say to the house of Jacob, and declare to the children of Yasharal, You have seen what I did to the Mizrites, to the Egyptians, and how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. Does that sound familiar, Mishpachah? Let me read that part again. You have seen what I did to the Mizrites, to the Egyptians, and how I bore you on eagle's wings and brought you to myself. And now, if you diligently obey my voice and shall guard my agreement, then you shall be my treasured possession above all the peoples, for all the Arats is mine. And you shall be to me a reign, a kingdom of priests, and a set-apart Kadashim nation. Those are the words that you are to speak to the children of Yasharal. Now let me stop there for a second, and I want to take you. The reason why I stopped there where he says that he bore us on eagle's wings. Of course, you know we've been doing our study as we're going to continue on the study today in the book of Hazon, also known as Revelation. But notice what it says here. Revelation 12, verse 6. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared by Alua Elohim to be nourished there for 1,260 days. And now we come down here, and it says, verse 14, And the woman was given 2 wings of a great eagle to fly into the wilderness to her place where she is nourished for a time, times, and half a time from the presence of the serpent. Mishpachah, the 144,000 are going to be borne on eagle's wings, and they are going to be taken up out of here very soon. I applaud that Abba Yahuwah has found you worthy to be one of the 144. Hallelujah. Yahuwah. Let's continue. Verse 7. And Masha came and called for the elders of the people, and set before them all the words that Yahuwah commanded him. And all the people answered together and said, All that Yahuwah has spoken, we shall do. Notice this. The people answered together and said, All that Yahuwah has spoken, we shall do. Not listen, they're going to do it. Put it into action. So Masha brought back the words of the people to Yahuwah. And Yahuwah said to Masha, See, I am coming to you in the thick cloud, so that the people hear when I speak with you, and believe you forever. And Masha reported the words of the people to Yahuwah. And Yahuwah said to Masha, Go to the people and set them apart today, 1 day, tomorrow, 2nd day, and they shall wash their garments, and shall be prepared by the 3rd day. For on the 3rd day, Yahuwah shall come down upon Mount Sinai before the eyes of all the people. Listen to this prophecy, Mishpachah. Yes, it's historical application, but there's a prophetical application that is literally being told to us. He who has ears to hear, let him hear. And you shall make a border for the people all around, saying, take heed to yourselves that you do not go up to the mountain or touch the border of whoever, and whoever touches the mountain shall certainly be put to death. Not a hand is to touch it, but he or she shall certainly be stoned or shot with an arrow. Excuse me, I can't see it because of this thing that's on my screen, which is causing me to. I'm hoping that I'm saying the right word as it gets to that point there. I apologize. Let me read verse 13 again. Not a hand is to touch it, but he or she shall certainly be stoned or shot with an arrow, whether it be man or beast. He or she shall not live. When the Yobal sounds long, this is talking about the Shofar. When the Yobal sounds long, let them come near the mountain. And Masha came down from the mountain to the people and set the people apart, and they washed their garments. Mishpachah. If you recall the sequences that we have read in the book of Revelation, this is exactly what we read. Let me take you here to Hazon. I'm actually kind of giving you a reminder of what we read. And so we see here about the fifth seal. And when he opened the fifth seal, I saw under the slaughter place, under the altar, the beings of those who have been slain for the word of Yahuah Elohim, for the witness that they held. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, how long, O Master, set apart and true, until you judge and avenge our blood on those who dwell on the Arats? And there was given to each one of them a white robe. Their garments were cleaned. And they were told that they should rest a little while longer until both the number of their fellow servants and their brethren who were to be unalived as they were was completed. It's the same thing that the Messiah said here in Revelation chapter 3, verse 18. I advise you to buy from me gold refined in the fire so that you become rich, and white garments, so that you become dressed, so that the shame of your nakedness might not be shown or seen, and anoint your eyes with ointment so that you see. Hallelujah. Yahuah. And so we see it's being played out again, prophetically speaking, that we are to wash our garments. Again, and Masha, verse 14, came down from the mountain to the people. You can substitute the word Masha here for our Mashiach. The Messiah came down from the mountain, from Mount Zion, to the people, to his people, and set the people apart. He's separating the sheep from the goat, and they washed their garments. We were resurrected, and those who are alive shall be changed in a twinkling of an eye. And he said to the people, be prepared by the third day. Do not come near a wife. You think he's talking about your physical wife? Historically, yes, but prophetically, no. He's talking about other religions. He's talking about other types of mindsets. He's talking about that strange foreign woman that you have read in the book of Proverbs. Do not listen to that woman. Do not go in by her, because her ways lead to the ditch, to the lake of fire. Verse 16, and it came to be on the third day. This would be the millennium. This would be the resurrection. This would be the last day in the Bechor, that there were thunders and lightnings and thick darkness on the mountain. And the voice of the Shofar was very strong, and all the people who were in the camp trembled. Does this not sound like the pyrotechnics in the heavenly realm that we read about at the end of each one of the sequences of the book of Revelation? Let me remind you. Let's go back there for a second. We're not going to look at all of them, but I want you to see it. Here at the end of the first sequence, and out of the throne came lightnings and thunders and voices, and 7 lamps of fire were burning before the throne, that are the 7 spirits, the Ruach of Yahuah Elohim. And the next one. And it says here, 8:5, and the messenger took the censer and filled it with fire with the from the slaughter place, the altar, and threw it to the earth. And there were noises and thunders and lightnings and an earthquake. That's the end of the second sequence. End of the third sequence. Chapter 11, verse 19, and the dwelling place of Yahuah Elohim was opened in the Shama, and the ark of his agreement was seen in his dwelling place, and there came to be lightnings and voices and thunders and an earthquake and great hail. This is what we're reading, again, prophetically speaking, what's going to happen on the third day, just like it says in Hosea chapter 6. And so we see here again, verse 16, and it came to be on the third day in the Bacor that there were thunders and lightnings and thick cloud on the mountain, and the voice of the shofar was very strong, and all the people who were in the camp trembled. And Moshe brought the people out of the camp to meet with Yahuah Elohim, and they stood at the foot of the mountain. And Mount Sinai was in smoke, and all of it, because Yahuah descended upon it in fire. And its smoke went up like the smoke of a furnace, and all the mountain trembled exceedingly. And when a voice of the shofar sounded long and became very strong, Moshe spoke. And Yahuah Elohim, the mighty of mighty ones, answered him by voice. And Yahuah came down upon Mount Sinai, on top of the mountain, and Yahuah called Moshe to the top of the mountain, and Moshe went up. And Yahuah said to Moshe, go down and warn the people, lest they break through unto Yahuah the sea, and many of them shall fall, or meaning that they shall die. And let the priests, the Kohanim, who come near Yahuah, set themselves apart too, lest Yahuah break out against them. Who are the priests? You and I are the kings and the priests, prophetically speaking. And Moshe said to Yahuah, the people are not able to come up to Mount Sinai, for you warned us, saying, make a border around the mountain and set it apart. And Yahuah said to him, come, go down and then come up, you and Aaron with you. But do not let the priests and the people break through to come up to Yahuah, lest he breaks out against them. And Moshe went down to the people and spoke to them. Hallelujah. Yahuah. Now let's go to Dabarim, also known as Deuteronomy, also chapter 19. Let me prop this side up. Give me a second, everyone. When Yahuah, your Yahuah Elohim, cuts off the nations whose land Yahuah, your Yahuah Elohim, is giving you, that is to you and me, and you dispossess them and dwell in their cities and in their houses, separate 3 cities for yourself in the midst of your land that Yahuah, your Yahuah Elohim, is giving you to possess. Prepare a way for yourself and divide it into 3 parts, the border of your land that Yahuah, your Yahuah Elohim, is giving you to inherit, that any manslayer shall flee there. And this matter of the manslayer who flees there and lives, he who strikes his neighbor unknowingly, not having hated him in times past, even he who goes to the forest with his neighbor to cut timber, and his hand swings a stroke with the axe to cut down the tree, and the head slips from the handle and strikes his neighbor, so that he is unalived, let him flee to one of these cities and live. Lest the revenger of dam, of blood, while his displeasure is hot, pursues that manslayer and overtakes him, because the way is long, and shall strike his being, though he was not worthy of unaliving, since he had not hated him before. Therefore I am commanding you, saying, separate 3 cities for yourself. And if Yahuah, your Yahuah Elohim, enlarges your border, as he swore to your fathers, and has given you the land that he promised to give to your fathers, when you guard all this command to do it, that I am commanding you today, to love Yahuah, your Yahuah Elohim, and to walk in his ways all the days, then you shall add 3 more cities for yourselves besides these 3. But notice what it says here. He says, when you guard all this command or commandment to do it, that I am commanding you today, to love Yahuah, your Yahuah Elohim, your mighty of mighty ones, and to walk key word here, to walk in his ways all the days, then you shall add 3 more cities for yourself besides these 3. So that innocent blood is not shed in the midst of your land, that Yahuah, your Yahuah Elohim, is giving you as an inheritance, or blood guilt shall be upon you. But when anyone hates his neighbor, and shall lie in wait for him or her, and rise against him or her, and strike their being so that they die, then he or she shall flee to one of these cities. And the elders of this city shall send and bring him from there, and give him into the hand of the revenger of blood, and he shall die. Your eye shall not pardon him or her, but you shall purge the dam of the innocent from Yasharal, so that it might be well with you. Do not remove your neighbor's boundary that those in the past have set in your inheritance, that you inherit in the land that Yahuah, your Yahuah Elohim, is giving you to possess. Now, this right here goes over a lot of people's heads. Verse 14. Let me turn this off here so we don't have anybody making messages with me here. Okay, notice what it says here in verse 14. Do not remove your neighbor's boundary. This would be the boundaries of his home, his property, his city, their country. Those in the past have set. So it's letting you know that it goes all the way back. When were these boundaries set? At the Tower of Babel. If you go back and you read Genesis chapter 11 and you go and you look into there, you'll see that he separated all the people into the places where he wanted them, and he set boundaries for these nations. But notice how people are sharing, or removing these boundaries today. Verse 15. One witness does not rise up against a man concerning any crookedness or any sin that he or she has committed. At the mouth of 2 witnesses, or at the mouth of 3 witnesses, a matter is established. This we all know is very key, Mishpachah. Even when there's something that goes between us and someone brings up a rowling accusation against any one of us, if you hear someone saying something about me, hopefully there's at least another witness, so that it may be established that, yes, Brother Jimmy did this, or he did that, or he said this, or he said that. When a malicious witness rises up against any person to accuse them of turning aside, then both the person who have the dispute shall stand before Yahuah, before the priests and the judges who serve in those days. And the judges shall diligently search and see if the witness is a false witness. The false witness, that's the ninth commandment of the 10 commandments, who has falsely accused his brother. Then you shall do to him as he thought to have done to his brother. Thus you shall purge the evil from your midst. And let the rest hear and fear, and never again do this evil matter in your midst. And let your eye not pardon, life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, and foot for foot. People think that this has gone away. We know that the Messiah says, as you have heard of old, an eye for an eye. And we know that he says, and I tell you, that we are to have this forgiveness for one another, right? Like he told him, if someone strikes you in your right cheek, give him the other as well. But the day is coming that Yahuah is going to deal with each person an eye for an eye. An eye for an eye. All right, let's go now to Lucas. We're going to go to Lucas in the Brit HaKadash. Lucas chapter 15. Luke chapter 15. Let me blow this up a little bit. Luke chapter 15, verse 1, it says here, verse 1. Now all the tax collectors and the sinners were coming to him, to our Messiah Yahusha, to hear him. And the Pharisees and scribes grumbled, saying, this one receives sinners and eats with them. And he spoke this parable to them, saying, what man among you, having 100 sheep, and having lost one of them, does not leave the 99 in the wilderness, and go after the one that is lost until he finds it. And having found it, he lays it on his shoulders, rejoicing. And having come home, he calls together his friends and neighbors, saying to them, Rejoice with me, for I have found my sheep that was lost. I say to you that in the same way, there shall be more joy in the Shama over one sinner repenting. We know what the word repenting is, right? It's not saying I'm sorry. It's not saying that I apologize. It means to go back and do the first. Get back on the ancient path. Do what is right. Get back in right standings with Abba Yahuah. Tashub, as it says in the Abrit, in the Hebrew. So he says here again, I say to you that in the same way, there shall be more joy in Shama over one sinner repenting, Tashub, than over 99 righteous ones who need no repentance, meaning that they're walking on the path, meaning that they're doing what is right. Or what woman having 10 silver coins, if she loses one coin, does not light a lamp and sweeps the house and seek diligently till she finds it? And having found it, she calls her friends and neighbors together, saying, Rejoice with me, for I have found the coin that I lost. Now, you and I would be saying, you mean to say that the Messiah would use such a parable about a coin? What kind of coin is this? Well, you got to understand, back in those days, we're talking about real metal. We're not talking about this fake stuff that we got here today. They were either having silver or gold coins. I say to you, in the same way there is joy in the presence of the messengers of the angels of Alua Alahim over one sinner repenting, again, going to the ancient path, going back to the law, statutes, and commandments. This is why they're called a sinner, because they transgressed the law. And he said, a certain man had 2 sons, and the younger of them said to his father, Father, give me the portion of the pleasant things falling to me. And he divided his livelihood between them. And not many days after, the younger son, having gathered all together, went away to a distant country, and there wasted his pleasantries with loose living. All of his, what's the word I'm looking for? His, my mind is a little slow this morning. Oh, well, you guys know what I'm talking about. I was over here trying to think of the word. Anyways, verse 14. And when he had spent all, there arose a severe scarcity of food throughout that land, and he began to be in need. And he went and joined himself to one of the citizens of that country. Notice what he did here. He went and joined himself to one of the citizens of that country, and he sent him to his field to feed pigs. Notice what he's dealing with here. He's feeding pigs, swine, a filthy, unclean animal. And he was longing to fill his stomach with the pods that the pigs were eating. So he has literally debased himself to the point that he was so hungry that even the food that the pigs were eating was starting to look scrumptious to him. And no one gave it to him. But having come to himself, notice that he was coming to himself, meaning that he was back in his right mind. He said, how many of my father's hired servants have bread enough and to spare, and I am perishing with hunger? So having risen, I shall go to my father and say to him, Father, I have transgressed. I have sinned. I have went against your instructions, against the heaven and before you. And I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants. He wanted to take a lower position. And having risen, he went to his father. And while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and was moved with compassion and ran and fell on his neck and kissed him. He saw him from a long way. And the son said to him, Father, I have sinned, I have transgressed against the Shama, and before you I am no longer worthy to be called your son. But the father said to his servants, Bring out the best robe, put it on him, and put a ring on his hand, and sandals on his feet, and bring the fatted calf here, and slaughter it, and let us eat and rejoice. let us eat and rejoice, because this son of mine was unalived. He was dead and is alive again, and he was lost and is now found. And they began to rejoice. But his older brother was in the field. And when he came and approached the house, he heard the music, or he heard the songs and dancing. And having called one of the servants, he asked, "What does this mean? What's going on?" And he said to him, "Your brother has come, and your father has slaughtered the fatted calf, because he received him back in health." And he, the older son, was angry and would not go in. So his father came out and pleaded with him. And answering, and he said to his father, "See, these many years I have been serving you, and I have never transgressed a command of yours. But to me you have never given a young goat, so I could rejoice with my friends. But when this son of yours came, who has devoured your livelihood with whores, with prostitutes." We all know who the whore is. We know who the prostitute is. We're not talking about physical women out there who are doing the work of the night. We're talking about other religious mindsets. You slaughtered the fatted calf for him. Then he said to him, "Son, you are always with me, and all I have is yours. It belongs to you." And we had to rejoice and be glad, for your brother was dead and is alive, and was lost and is found. Think of the imagery here, Mishpachah. He was dead. He was the walking dead. Remember what the Mashiach said, "Let the dead bury the dead." These are people who did not have salvation. They were not saved. And so we see here that he devoured all of his livelihood, giving to those pastors and preachers and teachers and false prophets, emptying out his pockets to these other religions, to these other teachings. And so this other man, this brother, he was jealous. He was jealous. Now we can look at this even as far as Yasharal and the Gentiles who are going to be adopted in. How Yahuah said that he will cause us to be jealous, even though we're walking in righteousness. You see some of our brothers and sisters, especially of the Hebrew Israelites, who are angry at the white man, the Caucasian. "You put us in these yokes of iron. You're the ones who brought us here on these ships." They're forgetting why they were even put on those ships. They're forgetting why those yokes of iron were even on their neck. It was because of your ancestors. Had nothing to do with the white man. Had nothing to do with the Caucasian. It had to do with the disobedience of our ancestors. And so we can see that even in this text of this parable. This parable speaks a lot. It's really strong. Anyhow, so now that we have read the Tanakh and the Brit Hadashah, or the Brit HaKadash, we are now getting ready to get into a little summary of what we did as a reminder, as a review, a short review of what we've been learning in the book of Revelation. So let me bring out my outline. I know some of you are asking about the outline, and some of you, I guess you don't know how to work your way around a website. If you have been trying to get an outline, for those of you who are not tech savvy, go ahead and email me. Give me some time. I will send it to you. I will send you the outline. Okay. So with that being said, let me go ahead and give you guys a review very quickly here of what we have already studied and where we're going to go from here. So as you see here, we have the first sequence. Again, just hitting the bullet points. The first sequence had to do with the 7 assemblies. The 7 assemblies had to do with 7 letters. The 7 letters were given to the 7 assemblies, which were actually 7 types of believers. Okay, there's 7 types of believers. The first one was the loveless believer, which was indicative of who we know as Ephesus. Smyrna was the persecuted ones, those that are going to be unalive during the Great Tribulation. Pergamus has to do with those who compromise. Thyatira has to do with those who are corrupt. Sardis has to do with those who are dead in spirit. Philadelphia has to do with the faithful believers, also known as the 144,000 at this time when this gets ready to occur right before the Great Tribulation. They are the assembly of Philadelphia. The 144,000 is Philadelphia. Laodicea or Laodicea is the lukewarm believers. These are the ones that are neither hot nor cold. They are lukewarm. And so the Messiah says that he will spew them out of his mouth unless they repent and go back and do the first works. And so then after this, we saw that Yohanan, he was taken up. Somebody said, why do you use the word rapture when it's not written in Scripture? That's true. It's not written in Scripture. But we do see that the event is there, okay, to be snatched up, to be carried away. Rapturo, raptus from the Latin. It means a snatching away. Okay, and so we do see that it is there. It just doesn't call it by that word rapture. But I use it because so many people understand the word rapture and what it means. All right. So here it is. Yohanan is taken in Revelation 4, verse 1. He's taken to the Shamayim, or to say heaven. And then we saw the pyrotechnics that I had just read earlier for you about the lights and the thunders and the lightning, and the thunders and the sound and the voice of the shofar. Okay, and the thick clouds. This was the pyrotechnic, as I like to call it, in the Shamayim before the throne room. And the 4 living beings and the 24 elders, they gave praise to him who sits on the throne. And the Lamb, remember, he came and he took the scroll out of him who sits on the throne. And it says all of those who are in the heavens and all those who are on the earth and all who are in the sea praised him. Why? Because at this point, Yahushua is getting ready to crack the sky with his Kodashim, with his set-apart ones. And the battle at Armageddon is getting ready to commence. So that is the first sequence. Let's move on to the second sequence. So now the second sequence, again, digresses. Now it's showing you from a different vantage point what John saw. So this doesn't come after the 7 assemblies. This goes, it's in alignment with the 7 assemblies. So it's happening simultaneously. Okay, so the first seal. The first seal had to do with what is called the white horse. I used to think that it was the anti-Mashiach, but we're coming to find out that this right here has to do with COVID-19, what we call the coronavirus. Remember it said there when we was reading Revelation chapter 6, verse 1 and 2, where it says that he who sat on this white horse, he was given a crown, okay, and he had a bow in his hand, where that word crown in the Latin means corona, which has to do with the coronavirus. The word bow there is a mistranslation. It should have been a poisonous substance, but I believe Abba Yahuah did that because at that time, and even up until this time, Yahuah did not want us to see what it was until it would be cracked open. That first seal has been cracked in 2019. We are now post 2019. This first seal is still riding. This white horse is still going forth, conquering to conquer. Now, the second seal is what we're seeing right before our eyes, even to this very moment, with all these skirmishes, wars and rumors of wars that is going on right now. This is the red horse. And it has not become a world war just yet, but we are heading in that direction. Mark our Messiah's words. It is getting ready to go down. World War III is at our doorstep. And then the third seal is the outcome of the world war. It's going to be the black horse. It's going to be a food ration. This is where the mark is possibly going to be given to many people. This is why we're seeing all the data centers. This is why we're seeing the AI technology. This is why we're seeing all of this technology coming together that no other generation has ever seen. We're the one that is getting ready to witness this stuff come to pass. And then we have the fourth seal, where it says that 1/4 of the earth are to be destroyed by these 3 that came before it, which is the pestilence, which would be the coronavirus diseases. You also have the war, and then you also have the food rationing, okay, or the famine. And it says, and also the beasts of the earth. Now we know that the beasts of the earth in the book of Revelation has nothing to do with lion, tigers, and bears. It has to do with these politicians, these leaders, these people in prominent positions who have been given authority with the beast for a short time. They are the ones that is being spoken of here in Revelation chapter 6. Okay, so now after we do that, now we go into the fifth seal, and we just read this earlier, talking about those who are going to be beheaded. Okay, it doesn't say that they're going to be beheaded, but if you're reading between the lines, it says there that again, that those who are under the altar was crying out to Abba Yahuah, who was sitting on the throne in the form of Yahusha, the Messiah, the Son. How long before you, how long you who are trustworthy and true, before you judge our dam, our blood on those who are upon the earth? When are you going to avenge our blood? And it said that it was told to them that they are to be silent for a little while longer until their brethren who are to be unalived as they were, this is letting us know, it's talking about beheading. It's a specific type of being unalived. They were to be unalived as they were until that number is completed. Okay, they were given a white robe to be silent for a little while longer. We know that we're deep into the Great Tribulation at this point. So the Great Tribulation, and this is just my opinion, I believe is going to start somewhere probably around the third seal. It's going to be after the World War. They're going to institute the mark, possibly in the third seal. And then later what we see is the outcome of the fifth seal is the beheadings of the believers. Number 6, the sixth seal. Here we read about how it talks about this great earthquake and people, these mighty men and all these commanders and princes, they were all hiding in the mountains. They were hiding in their bunkers, hoping that they were going to be able to hide themselves from the wrath of him who sits on the throne and the Lamb. But they're not going to be able to hide from him. And so then we find ourselves again at the seventh seal, where there's silence in heaven for about a half an hour. And there was lightning and thunderings and noises and an earthquake, the heavenly pyrotechnic. What follows after this is the wrath of Yahuah. That's the 7 bowls. And then after that, the millennial reign. And then after that, we have the great white throne judgment. Satan is thrown into the lake of fire. And then we have eternity. Now let's go to the third sequence. The third sequence has to do with the 7 trumpets. The first trumpet, as you know, has to do with a third of the trees and plants and grass being burned up. This is happening, and it's occurring as we speak. This doesn't happen all at once. A third of the trees aren't going to burn all at once. This is over time that this happens. Once it's completed, a third of the trees on the earth will have been gone. They would have been went up in smoke and ashes. So this is why we're seeing every summer, be it wherever it's summer at that time of the year, we're seeing all of these large forest fires all over the earth. And then it goes on and talks about the second trumpet. This has not occurred yet. It talks about how a third of the sea life is destroyed and a third of the ships are destroyed. Remember, John said he saw something what looked like a great mountain fell into the ocean, or into the sea, I should say. And it says, and a third of it became blood. This hasn't happened or occurred yet. This is going to happen. I believe this is going to be connected to the World War, the second seal, when the red horse goes out in full potential effect. Then we have the third trumpet. The third trumpet talks about a third of the rivers and a third of the springs being contaminated. This is possibly, and again, this is just my opinion, but this sounds like it is contaminated by radiation, by nuclear fallout. And again, this has to be because of what has transpired because of this world war. And it says that many men died from drinking these waters. And then the fourth trumpet talked about how the sun, moon, and the stars were diminished by a third. And those were the first 4, but now the last 3 woes, this is what begins the Great Tribulation here in this sequence. So when we get to the 5th trumpet, we are now in the Great Tribulation. What was the 5th trumpet? A third of the angels that fell with Satan, they're going to be upon the earth. They're the ones that we read about that look like this locust army, symbolically speaking. And it talks about how they were able to sting a man as a scorpion stings a person when it is stung. Okay, and it says that the power was in its tail. And those who were stung by these scorpions, these locust-looking things, that they would seek death but can't find it. Well, through our studies, we found out that this has to do with demonic possession. Has nothing to do with a scorpion or a locust with a scorpion tail. This is all symbolism, speaking of those who are going to be possessed. Okay, and you can connect this to Luke chapter 10, verse 17, where it talks about that how Messiah gave us authority over the serpents and the scorpions. All right, let us continue from there. So the sixth trumpet occurs. Now we have the second woe, and a third of men die from this 200 million man army that is heading towards what we know today as the Middle East or Israel. Okay, now with that being said, as you all know and recall, we're not talking about the people who call themselves Israelis. Okay, they are going to be the ones in control of that land as they are to this day right now. But this is why this 200 million man army is coming towards these Zionists. Okay, these Zionists, like what we're seeing right now, they have created. And China ain't going to stand for it. India isn't going to stand for it. Russia isn't going to stand for it. The Muslim countries aren't going to stand for it. This is going to bring about the battle at Armageddon. The battle at Armageddon. Not the battle of Armageddon, but at Armageddon, because Armageddon is a location. It's a geographical location in Israel. Har means mountain. Megiddo is an area, a meadow, a valley. So it's a valley near a mountain, and this is by Nazareth, by the way, in northern Israel. There's a valley there that runs almost 200 miles wide, and it's big enough for all these men of war to come together to get ready to shed blood. And so it goes on and says here, after this, we read about the two witnesses. Okay, and the two witnesses, oh, let me back up. The mighty Malak, the mighty angel. The mighty angel is none other than the Messiah himself, who swore by himself that there shall be no delay any longer. When the seventh trumpet has been sounded, then all of the mystery of Yahuah shall be revealed as he gave it to the prophets, to the Nabaim. It shall be revealed. But it's before the sounding of the seventh trumpet. So we know that this is going to happen or occur right before the Messiah comes to get his people, comes for the resurrection, the first resurrection. Okay. And then Yohanan took the scroll out of the hand of the mighty one, and he was commanded to eat it. And remember, he said how it was sweet in his mouth, but it was bitter in his stomach. So again, sweet in his mouth. You hear the basora, you're excited, you're elated. But once you start reading this word and you start to realize, you mean I just don't get to live forever? I got to go through all of this? That's where the bitterness sets in. Okay, Yohanan is realizing this as he's reading the prophecies that are about to occur in a distant generation that he is not part of, but he's reading it and it upsets his stomach. And so we go on and it talks about now about the two witnesses. And remember, we were talking about who could the two witnesses be? Now, everyone has their opinions. Everyone can be, talking about, well, it's this and this. It's Elijah and Moses. It's Elijah and Enoch. No one knows for certain. We'll know when that day comes. Okay, so just to put out what we talked about when we read about this and we studied this. So is it Enoch and Elijah? Is it Enoch and Moses? Or excuse me, Elijah and Moses? Is it John the Revelator, the one that we're reading that put this together, what we call the book of Revelation, and Elijah? Or is it the two houses? Is it the northern tribes, which is the lost tribes of Israel, and the southern tribe, Judah and Levi, along with Benjamin? Could this be the two? And they are now one in his hand, as it says in the book of Ezekiel, chapter 37? Or is it the house of Israel, the natural olive tree, and the Gentiles, the wild olive tree? Are these the two olive trees? No one truly knows. We can all speculate, but Abba Yahuah is going to reveal it to us. This is why we do these studies, so that when the time comes and when Abba Yahuah decides to reveal it like a time capsule, once it's open, you're going to know what that prophecy is. You don't have to guess anymore. You don't have to assume anymore. You don't have to have your own opinion anymore, because he is going to make it clear to you, just like the first seal. It is very clear to me that the first seal has nothing to do with the anti-Messiah. It has everything to do with the coronavirus. That was a worldwide event that shut down the whole world. And they were all going off of the same playbook. what playbook that was, who gave him those instructions, that everyone was supposed to separate 6 feet by 6 feet all over the place, okay, and you had to wear a mask and you were supposed to stay home, you can't go to work. The whole world, friend and foe, did this. Russia did this, North Korea did this, Iran did this, everyone did this. You don't think an event that large would not be written? And we talked about all of this occurring right after the 400-year curse was lifted on the children of Yasharal. That was spoken of in Genesis chapter 15 to Abraham. So we're seeing this transpiring, and now that it has transpired, just as he said in his word to Abraham, he says he is going to judge that nation that has done this to his people and took them into captivity. What nation is that? And how is that nation the nation that is controlling the world right now, called this mystery Babylon? And we talked about that in Revelation chapter 17. So we're seeing that all of this is lining up, and the only ones who can't see this is because Abba Yahuah hasn't given those who don't have eyes to see. They can't see it. He gave them ears, but they can't hear it. They don't want to know it. They don't want to hear it. So after the two witnesses, it says that 2 woes have passed, but the third woe is coming. Now, the third woe is the seventh trumpet. But for us, it's not a woe. For us, this is a barakah, because the seventh trumpet is the last trumpet that Paul spoke about in 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 22, where he says that the dead shall rise at the last trumpet. That last trumpet is the seventh trumpet. It is the last of the 7 trumpets. And when you read the seventh trumpet in Revelation chapter 11, verses 15 to 19, you see where it talks about there that the dead, the prophets that were dead, and the saints, it was time for them, the dead of the prophets and the saints, for them to receive their reward. This is the first resurrection. The rest did not come back to life until after the 1,000 years. So we come to the end of another sequence. We hear the loud voices. We hear all of this people that are celebrating and worshiping Abba Yahuah. Okay, the 24 elders fall down and they give their praise to him who sits on the throne. And then we see again the lights and sounds, the heavenly pyrotechnics, the lightnings, the noises, the thunders, the earthquakes, and the great hail. This is in Revelation 11:19. What follows this is going to be the wrath of Yah, which is the 7 bowls. Right after that, what follows that is going to be the 7th sequence, which is the millennial reign. What happens after that? After the millennial reign, we have that little season where Satan comes out and he creates this war with Gog and Magog and brings them to the eternal city. And then after that, we know that he is going to destroy everything on the earth and in the heavens. He's going to remake everything. We'll get into that today. But he does all of that. And then there's a great white throne that's going on at the same time, this judgment. This is the second resurrection. And anybody's name who was not found in the Lamb's Book of Life was thrown into that lake of fire. Now to the fourth sequence. The fourth sequence is a regression. It's going back and it's giving us more minute detail about Babylon. And so we read here about this diabolical Trinity. First of all, we know there is no Trinity to begin with, but Satan has created this Trinitarian doctrine all the way back since Babylon with Nimrod, Semiramis, and Tammuz. That was the diabolical Trinity of Babylon. The Egyptians did the same thing with Isis, Horus, and Osiris. Okay, these 3 is a diabolical Trinity of the Egyptian mythology. Greece did the same thing. And then lo and behold, the Catholics did the same thing. And they gave it as Christianity, with everyone believing in the Father, Son, and the so-called Holy Spirit. And that these 3 are distinct, but yet one. I don't know what kind of math they're doing, and I don't know how that even makes sense, but I used to believe it. Until Abba Yahuah opened my eyes, as he's opened up many of your eyes, and you know that he is one. And he manifests himself in myriads of ways. But yet he is still one. He says, there's none besides me, no, not one. I did this all by myself. I stretched out the heavens all by myself. I laid the foundation down of the earth all by myself. I have done this. I am he. I am Yahuah. That's what he says all throughout the book of Isaiah and all throughout the scriptures. He says that it is him. He is one. And so we go on and says here, and we start seeing about where it talks about this woman. right? The woman that we saw in Revelation chapter 12 that had the 12 garland of stars over her head as a crown, and she was clothed in the sun, and she had the moon under her feet. This is talking about the 144,000. This is the 12 tribes of Israel. We can go back to Genesis. Remember that? Where Joseph had the dream, how he said that his father, who was represented as the sun, his mother was represented as the moon, and his 11 brothers were represented as the stars. So symbolically, we understand that this image, this vision, this symbolism here in Revelation chapter 12, verse 1 is talking about the 144,000. These are the ones who were given the wings of an eagle and was taken away to a place that was prepared for them for a time, times and half a time, or 3.5 years. And so the woman is the 144,000. The 144,000 is the assembly of Philadelphia. They are the ones who have been promised to be kept from the hour of trial that shall come upon the whole world to test those who dwell upon the earth. Again, Revelation chapter 3, verse 10. And so then from there, we see that the woman is saved. This war breaks out in heaven where Satan and his angels fought against Michael and his angels, but there was no place found for them anymore because they weren't strong enough. So Satan and his angels was thrown down to the earth. This begins the Great Tribulation. And this is why one of the angels said, "Woe to the inhabitants of the earth and to those that are in the sea, because Satan has come down to you with great wrath." And so he went after the 144,000, but he couldn't find the 144,000. Why? Because they were taken away. And we see that they were taken away to heaven right here in Revelation chapter 14, verse 1. They were taken. All right. But now when we back up, we see that the 144,000 were taken. They were given the wings of two wings of a great eagle, and they were taken to a place that was prepared for them. We know that to be Mount Zion. When you read Revelation chapter 14, you see that's where they're at. They're the first fruits that were taken from the earth, that were taken from men. Okay. These 144,000 are not, and again, I have to repeat this because we have some new people in here. These are not the 144,000 Jewish young boys who are virgins who never had sexual intercourse with a woman. This is talking about 144,000, 12,000 from each tribe. Judah only represents one of the 12 tribes, and the true Jews are not those Jews that are calling themselves Jews. The true Jews are the ones that are scattered, and those 12,000 that are from that Judah camp, from that Judah tribe, 12,000 of them shall be taken, as there'll be 12,000 from each of the 11 tribes that'll be taken. They're the ones that are going to be whisked away. But that doesn't mean that the rest of us won't be taken later. We will be taken later, but it will be at the end of the Great Tribulation, like our Messiah said in Matthew chapter 24, starting around verse 29, where he says immediately after the tribulation of those days, when the sun doesn't give its light and the moon is dark and the stars fall from heaven, he says, then he shall send his angels to the four corners of the earth to gather his elect from one end of the heaven to the other with the sounding of a great trumpet. And it says, and all the earth shall mourn, they shall see him whom they have pierced. Okay, so this is all happening at the very end. There is no such thing as a pre-tribulation rapture. And so these Jewish people who have been calling themselves Jews, this is what's causing a lot of the misconception, okay, of prophecy. If you don't know who the true people are of the book, you're going to have your whole eschatology messed up. Your whole end time understanding is going to be totally destroyed because you're looking at the wrong people. And since you have your eyes on the wrong people, you're putting the prophecies on them when the prophecies are on someone else. And those people that it's truly for is happening right before your eyes, and you don't see it because your eyes have been given another focus and you're not looking at what you're supposed to be focusing on. So he has literally, for those of you who are doing that, Yahuah has given you up over to the great deception. You don't have to be there, though. If you will humble yourself and get yourself out of the way, Abba Yahuah can reveal to you what this truth is and who the true people are, so you know how to line up the prophecies. It has nothing to do with color. It has nothing to do with your paint job. It has everything to do with the historical record, and that historical record is following a people to this present day. So if you don't know who Israel is, then you don't understand prophecy. And if you're applying Israel to the people who are calling themselves Jews and are not, Revelation 2:9, Revelation 3:9, then you have misconstrued the prophecies of this book called the Book of Revelation. And for that matter, all the prophecies, even in the prophets of the Old Testament, as they would call it, in the Tanakh. So going back here, so we see again, the woman shall be saved. There's this war in heaven. Satan is now released on the earth, and with the third of the angels with him, the 144,000 is taken. The beast of the sea, who many know as the anti-Messiah, he shall be revealed. And this is the one that Satan shall possess in his body. Okay, he will be living in the body of this false Messiah, and they're going to make an image to this false Messiah because something's going to happen to him, and they're going to resurrect him. So just like it was in the days of our Messiah, Satan is going to do a resurrection, and he's going to be allowed to do a resurrection so that those who don't believe in the truth may believe the lie, and they're going to be deceived and think that this is truly the Messiah, who can make war with him, as it says in Revelation chapter 13. And so it says that he goes out and he makes war with the rest of the saints, with the rest of the set apart ones, and he's going to take them out. Why? Because we won't give him our allegiance. We won't give him our loyalty. We will not bow the knee down to him like Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego wouldn't do it. So he's going to cast us into a furnace, the furnace called the Great Tribulation. Up to 10 days, you can be tortured up to 10 days. But after that, he has to give you death. He has to give you death. But the Messiah says that we are to endure to the end, persevere to the end, strive to the end. And those who overcome, he shall give us a crown of life. So then we have these 6 Malachim starting in 14:6, where they are preaching the everlasting great news. Okay, Revelation 14:6 and 7. Unlike how the Seventh-day Adventists teach this, as they always like to talk about the 3 angels network and all this other stuff, we're not going there. What we're talking about is this, that these 3 angels here who are proclaiming what was getting ready to happen, the first one talks about how this great news and warns all of men that Yahuah's wrath is about to commence. He's about to release it upon the earth. When does that get released? At the end of the Great Tribulation. The Great Tribulation is not the Creator's wrath. The Great Tribulation comes from Satan. Satan is the tester. He's testing. He's the one who is going to try. He's the trier of Yahuah's people. This is why it's so important to know the true doctrine, to know the true great news. If you're following things that we know that is wrong, that has been taught to us through Christianity, you're already in it. He's not going after you. He's already got you. You're already giving your allegiance to the beast because you're in the beast system. Christianity is the beast system. I know some of you don't want to hear this, but you need to do this study for yourself. I'm saying this without in any way being negative towards anyone or trying to harm anyone in any kind of their feelings, but you need to do this for yourself as a favor for your own soul. You want to be living forever, right? You want to be born again, right? You want to have everlasting life, right? Well, then you need to look into this matter and stop going along with the rest of the people, because the road that's leading to the lake of fire is wide, and that wide gate, that wide road, that wide path is Christianity. It's the largest religion on the earth. You hear people over there in Capitol Hill in this country praying every day before they start their sessions. They're either praying to Allah, they're praying to Jehovah, they're praying to Jesus, they're praying to Hare Krishna. I've seen it. I've seen the video of them doing this at the Capitol building here in the United States of America. That building is a large temple. But I don't want to get sidetracked because we're going to go there later anyways, because we got to talk about some of this stuff today. But anyhow, so then we see that the second Malach, he proclaims that Babylon is filthy. Okay, and we know that Babylon is just not one country. Babylon is a conglomerate of countries. This is why they're getting ready to split up the world into 10 regions. Okay, and they're all part of the Club of Rome. You can look it up, Club of Rome. Clubofrome.org, I believe is the site. And just like it says in the book of Revelation, that it's going to be broken up into 10 regions with 10 kings over these 10 regions. And Satan is at the helm of all of this through the anti-Messiah. And they give their authority to the anti-Messiah. They give their authority to the beast for a short time. And so the third Malach gives warning of anyone who takes the mark and what is going to happen to them if they take the mark. So this lets us know at this point, the mark is getting ready to go down. The Great Tribulation is about to commence. And so then the fourth Malach, the fourth angel, he talks about how the first harvest occurs. The first harvest, again, is us being resurrected. The first harvest is us being taken up at the last trumpet, the seventh trumpet. That occurs here in Revelation chapter 14, verses 14 to 16. This we read about last week. And then there was another harvest that was coming up, but this one is the great winepress harvest. Okay, these are the ones who are against Yahuah in Revelation 14, 17 to 20. And they were thrown in like grapes into the great winepress. And it says that the blood of those who were unalive came up to the bridle of a horse's mouth, and it stretched out for 180 stadias or whatever. So it's like 200 miles or something like that. I can't quite remember. Almost 200 miles long. This is that war of the 200 million man army that's going to create this great winepress of blood. And so after this, we see that they give praise to Yah in the Shamayim. So what follows this? What follows this would be the fourth sequence. And then it goes on to the eighth sequence. But again, so we don't, what follows this fourth sequence is the seventh sequence. And then the seventh sequence follows the eighth sequence. So the fourth sequence is what we're reading. What happens after that is going to be what we know as the seventh sequence, which is the millennial reign. After the millennial reign, then we go to the eighth sequence, which is the eternal sequence, or eternity, hence the number 8, infinity. Okay, so that's those. Now let me take you to the fifth sequence. The fifth sequence, let me find it here. Okay, so this is, I haven't updated this yet, so you're going to see a lot of Christian verbiage here because I haven't had a chance to compile it into the Nazarene understanding, but nonetheless, you'll still be able to follow along. So now we're here at the fifth sequence. The fifth sequence has to do with the 7 bowls. This is the wrath of Yahuah, okay? The 7 seals is not the wrath of Yahuah. The 7 trumpets is not the wrath of Yahuah, okay? It's the 7 bowls. This is the wrath of Yahuah, and it starts in Revelation chapter 16, verse 1. So this is where there is silence in heaven, and Yahuah told everybody to get out of his temple. He was angry. Okay, now you remember the 4 living beings, the 4 living angels that are before his throne, they never cease from praising him. They're saying, Kadash, 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 Kadash. They're always saying this before his throne. But now they're silent. Why? Because Abba Yahuah is about to unleash his wrath upon the inhabitants of this earth. You and I will not be here. Remember, we are taken out at the last trumpet. What we're reading now, the fifth sequence, follows after that. Okay? It comes after the trumpets. It comes after the seals. It comes after the assemblies. So this is where they all come together to a head. They all meet here at the fifth sequence. So the fifth sequence, the temple is closed. The first bowl is released. Swords are on all those who have taken the mark. The second bowl has to do with all the sea being turned to blood. Not just a third of it. Now all of it is turned to blood. The third bowl, has to do with all rivers and springs turning to blood. Not just a third of it. Now all of it is contaminated. The fourth bowl has to do with men being scorched by the sun. So now we see again, this has to do with the luminary, and the luminary called the sun is going to be turned up. He's going to ratchet it up. It's going to be really hot. Okay. And people are going to be angry, and they're going to be cursing Abba Yahuah because of the amount of heat that's coming. And then the fifth bowl happens, and it says that darkness was over the beast's kingdom. This darkness is so heavy and so deep that it can be felt. And it talks about how they will have sores all over them. Okay. And then the sixth bowl, okay, this is at the battle at Armageddon is being prepared. This is where the 200 million man army is already heading its way, and they're getting ready to be destroyed. And then we have the seventh bowl. This is where the great earthquake occurs. Babylon is destroyed by Yahuah, and great hail. Remember how we were talking about a talent being 75 to 95 pounds each, falling and cracking the sky, because it has to do, I believe, with the firmament that is made out of this ice dome. And this ice dome, when Yahuah cracks the sky, particles of that dome is going to break, and these pieces of hail mingled with fire as they're entering into the earth's atmosphere because of the resistance, it's going to light up. And these things are going to be falling out of the sky like rain. Not like a little golf ball, not like a softball hail, but 75 to 95 pounds of ice falling out of the sky, plummeting the earth's surface on the beast kingdom. This isn't worldwide. This is geographically located in certain positions in certain places on the earth. And so once that is done, we come here where now it talks about the sixth sequence, and we went over this last week also. We talked about the sixth sequence had to do with Babylon, specifically about Christianity. If you all recall, when we was reading Revelation chapter 17, it talks about this great whore and how she's called a mother and how she is dressed in red and purple and gold, and a golden cup was in her hand, and she had precious stones and pearls upon her. And it says that all the blood of the saints was found in her. This is taking us all the way back to the time of not only the Spanish Inquisition, but the Catholic Inquisition. Everywhere they went, they were unaliving people at the edge of the sword, either convert or die, just like Islam does in certain places with their, what do they call it? Their, I can't remember what they call it, that holy war that they always say. I can't remember the word. You guys know it. But anyways, so the Christians are doing the same thing that the Muslims are doing right now, but the Christians are still doing it now. But now they have multi-million-dollar weapons, and they're not using a two-edged sword anymore. They're using, tomahawk missiles, and they're using cruise missiles. They're using bombs. They're using bullets. They're still doing this to this very day under the guise of fighting terrorism, under the guise of fighting these so-called governments that are regimes and putting them on sanctions. They're still doing this. Why? Because the United States of America is the military arm of the Vatican. London is the financial arm of the Vatican. And the Vatican is the religious arm of Babylon. So this is a three-headed monster that has been going on in this 20th century, and Yahuah is going to destroy it. Now, this mother, she's called a mother, the mother church. She has daughters, and those daughters are called harlots as well. Why? Because they went astray. They went awry from the true teachings of the scripture. They changed the day of when it is to worship. They no longer follow the feast days. They follow pagan days, the pagan so-called holidays, which is a play on word for their holy days. Even the atheists follow these days. Even the Muslims during the year will follow certain ones because they like it. They're attracted to it. And so this mother of harlots has caused all the world to be drunk by her wine, by her teachings, by her doctrine. And so all of Christianity, it says, is going to be destroyed. The Creator is going to put it in the hearts of these 10 kings to destroy her and to eat her flesh, as it says in the book of Revelation, in chapter 18. We know that Christianity, along with Islam, along with all religious organizations, will be destroyed, and they're going to bring out the pure Luciferian doctrine. This is when the anti-Messiah will rule and reign. It would not surprise me if a bomb drops on St. Peter's Square to cause all the Catholics of the earth to start crying and mourning and wondering what has happened. Why did God allow this to happen to St. Peter's Basilica? And why did Mecca get destroyed? And why did Dalai Lama's place up in the Nepal mountains get destroyed? Because Satan has to remove what he has created to bring in his new structure. It's the same thing that we're seeing that's happening right now with these elites. They cause the problem. They talk about what is going to be the solution, and then they bring it out. It's the same thing they're going to do with the religions. Same identical thing, but on a grander scale. And so here we see the scarlet beast. We know who the scarlet beast is. It's Satan. The scarlet woman, again, that is Rome. Babylon, that great city. All heaven is going to be exalting Yahuah because she is destroyed. And so this is where we're going to start today, because we finished there last week at Revelation chapter 19, verse 10. Okay, so this is the end of the fifth sequence. Now we're getting ready to talk about the sixth sequence. Or excuse me, was that the sixth? That was the 6th sequence. We're getting ready to go into the 7th sequence. My bad. My bad. So the 7th sequence. So this is where we're going to pick up from the book of Revelation. So let's go to Revelation chapter 19, starting at verse 11. And verse 11 is where the Messiah cracks the sky, and it's his second coming. Okay, let me see here. What did I do with my... There it is. Revelation chapter 19, verse 11. This is the beginning of the 7th sequence. And I saw the Shama opened, and there was a white horse. And he who sat on him was called Trustworthy and True, and in righteousness he judges and fights. And his eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns. Having a name, excuse me, let me get this set up properly here. Having a name that had been written that no one had perceived except himself. No one knew this name except for the Messiah, or will know this name except for the Messiah. And having been dressed in a robe dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of Yahuah. Now, this Word of Yahuah, which is his name is called, is not the same as he said here that no one had perceived except himself, this other name. This is a name that we won't ever know. He's the only one who will know this. But he is called the Word of Yahuah. So in case you don't know who we're talking about the Messiah, Yahusha. Just like in the book of John, it says what? In the beginning was the Word, right? This is the Word of Yahuah. This is himself. This is the Messiah. And the armies, that would be you and me, in the Shama, dressed in fine linen. Remember, we were given linen, white garments to wear so that our nakedness will not be seen. We're white and clean, not talking about skin color. It's talking about symbolically that we're clean, we're pure without any spot or wrinkle or blemish. We followed him on white horses. And out of his mouth goes a sharp sword. And we know this sharp sword to be, again, our Messiah, because he is the Word. Okay. And that with it, he should smite the nations. He's going to smite all the militaries of the earth. And he shall shepherd them with a rod of iron. He's going to shepherd all the peoples of the earth with a rod of iron. When he shepherds them with a rod of iron, this isn't with a shepherd's staff. This rod of iron is a correct staff. It's to correct people. You can also unalive people with this rod. So it's showing us that he has great authority. This is our Messiah. And he treads the winepress of the fierceness of the wrath of Al Shaddai. Remember, we was just reading this again. And he treads the winepress of the fierceness of the wrath of Al Shaddai, which is the Almighty. Now, where did we read this before? Well, let's go back to Revelation chapter 14. Verse 17. What did he say here? And another messenger came out of the dwelling place, out of heaven. Okay. And he too held a sharp sickle. And another messenger came out from the slaughter place, having authority over the fire. And he cried with a loud voice to him, having the sharp sickle, saying, send your sharp sickle and gather the clusters of the vine of the earth, because her grapes are ripe. And the messenger thrust his sickle into the earth and gathered the vine of the earth and threw it into the what? Great winepress of the wrath of Yahuah Elohim. What do we read here? And he treads the winepress of the fierceness of the wrath of Al Shaddai. This is the exact same event of Revelation chapter 14, starting at verse 17. So you can see here that this is not in chronological order. You have to know where these sequences are to where you're hearing this message once, and then he's showing John again from another angle, the message again from a different angle, and then he's showing it again from a different angle again. This is why I was sharing with you. Once you break this book down, you'll notice that there are 8 sequences in the book of Revelation. And right now we're on the 7th. And so it talks about how he is going to tread on this winepress, the fierceness of the wrath of Al Shaddai. Okay. And on his robe and on his thigh, He has a name written, Sovereign of Sovereigns. Yours will say Lord of Lord, I mean King of Kings, and then yours will say Lord of the Lords's. We don't use that, but he is the Master of Masters. And I saw one messenger standing in the sun, and he cried with a loud voice, saying to all the birds that fly in the heaven, this is symbolical speech for us, you and me. We are these birds that are flying because we are the ones that are riding down, following him on white horses ourselves. Are we going to call it Pegasus? No, because we don't follow Zeus, and it's not the horse of Zeus. But nonetheless, somehow, symbolically speaking, these horses, if they are actual physical horses, are able to fly. Now, I don't know about what horse you've ever seen, but I've never seen a horse fly before. So we know that this has to be symbolic imagery. We will know on that day. But it says here, again, symbolically speaking, that we are these birds that fly in the midst of heaven. Come and gather together for the supper of the great Yahuah Elohim. Notice it's talking about this great supper. The marriage supper of the Lamb is what this is. And it says that we are to eat the flesh of sovereigns or kings, and the flesh of commanders, and the flesh of strong ones, and the flesh of horses, and those who sit on them, and the flesh of the people, free and slave, both small and great. Now we know, again, this is all symbolic imagery, because this same supper of the great Yahuah Elohim, the mighty of mighty ones, is spoken of here earlier at the end of the 6th sequence. Remember what it says here in Revelation chapter 19, verse 7? It says, let us be glad and rejoice and give praise, for the marriage of the Lamb has come, and his wife has prepared herself, and to her it was given to be dressed in fine linen, clean and bright. Remember, we get to put on white garments. For the fine linen is the righteousness of the Kadashim, the set-apart ones. And he said to me, right, Baruch are those who have been called to the marriage supper of the Lamb. What marriage supper? Right here. This is the marriage supper. It ain't up in heaven for 7 years like we've been taught in Christianity, while the whole world is going through this craziness down here for what they call the tribulation period. This last 7 years, the rest of us are going to be in heaven, and we're going to have this long table, this long dinner table, as far as the eye can see, just going off into the distance, and we're all sitting there, and the Messiah is going to serve us. This is the marriage supper of the Lamb. This is what Seventh-day Adventists would like you to believe. This is what all the eschatological teachers of Christianity want you to believe. But this is the marriage supper of the Lamb right here. Come, gather together for the supper of the great Yahuah Elohim. What's the marriage supper of the Lamb? You're going to eat, and again, symbolically speaking, we're not cannibals. We're not actually eating the flesh of these men and women and whoever else has got the mark. No, we're going to destroy them. So he's saying, just like when you say, man, you're satisfied, right? When you eat a big dinner, you're like, oh man, I ate so much. I'm so satisfied. Well, this is all the imagery of what you're reading right here. He's saying, go out and you're going to be able to slaughter until you are satisfied. Slaughter everything that you see in the midst in front of you who has to do with the beast system. Destroy them. And who are we destroying? We're destroying the armies, the militaries. That's where we're coming down. We're coming down to destroy the United States military. We're destroying Europe's military. We're destroying China's military. We're destroying Russia's military. Why? Because they're all against Abba Yahuah. He's cleaning house. The earth is his and the fullness thereof. He's cleaning it up, and he's going to erect his kingdom. And we are the ones who are going to be the ones in control of it as his kings and priests. Verse 19, and I saw the beast and the sovereigns in the earth and their armies gathered together to fight him who sat on the horse and his army. This is the battle at Armageddon, Revelation 16, starting at verse 12. This is what I'm saying. You would have to go back to that passage in Revelation chapter 16, because again, we're in another sequence. We're seeing it from a different angle. And the beast was seized, that is the false Messiah, and with him the false prophet. I don't believe that the false prophet is the Pope, because Christianity is going to be destroyed along with the whole pomp and circumstance of what is called Catholicism. It's going to be taken out, eradicated. So whoever this false prophet is, it's not a pope. It's somebody who is going to be telling everyone else, pay homage to the false Messiah. Of course, he ain't going to say false Messiah. He's going to say that this is the one. He's the creator. He's the creator of heaven and earth. And it says again, and the beast was seized, and with him the false prophet who worked signs in his presence. By that he led astray those who received the mark of the beast and those who worshipped his image. The two were thrown alive into the lake of fire, burning with sulfur. Again, the mark of the beast, the mark of the beast. They received it and they worshipped his image. Is this image going to be the blonde hair, blue eyed JEC or the JC, that person that we know of? Probably so. We know that that beast image is here now. We know that the beast name is here now. People have it on their lips to this very day. They call him Jesus. Jesus. Look into it. The suffix in the name Jesus has to do with Zeus. S-U-S has to do with Zeus. That's why I was saying about Pegasus earlier. Pegasus ends with S-U-S. That S-U-S in Pegasus is indicative of Zeus. Ephesus, the city called Ephesus, ends with S-U-S. It has to do with Zeus. Tarsus, where Paul was from, is also talking about Zeus. Dionysus, also talking about Zeus. So what makes you think that we shouldn't use that same understanding with the name Jesus, with the ending of the S-U-S? It has to do with Zeus. But many of you Christians don't want to believe it. I'm sure there's some of you listening to me right now in here on the day of Yahuah, on this Shabbat, and you don't want to hear this is a lying name that has been given to us. This is the false name that the Messiah said that I have come in my Father's name, but you won't accept me. But another comes in his name and you will accept him. John chapter 5, verse 43. It's very sad, but some of us have such a hard heart and a stiff neck and stubbornness that when the truth is hitting us in the face, we won't even listen to it because we are just that diluted and we're that far into the spell. As I like to say when I talk about these things, look, 10 people just left the room. 10 people just left the room. And it's so unfortunate because people like to have their ears scratched. They want to hear what pleases them. Let us continue. And it says that the two were thrown alive into the lake of fire burning with sulfur. So these two, the false Messiah and the false prophet, are going to be thrown alive into the lake of fire. And it says, and the rest were unalive with the sword that came from his mouth of him who sat on the horse, and all the birds were filled with their flesh. Again, this is symbolic speech. We're not going to be eating their flesh, but it's talking about how we're going to be satisfied because we're getting ready to avenge those people who have done so much to us and everything that they represent, this whole Babylonian system and all of its pomp and circumstances. We're going to destroy it, and he's going to put it into our hands, just like he did with the children of Israel when they crossed over the Jordan River and Joshua was before them. He was their general, their army, the chief of their army, just like Yahusha, same name. Instead of Joshua, his real name is Yahusha, okay, who's the apprentice of Moses. It's the same name that our Messiah came in, Yahusha, which is I am salvation. He's the one who is going to take us into the promised land. And just like the ancient Israel of old, they went in and they destroyed all the kingdoms that was before them to cleanse the promised land. And so it's going to be the same thing now. When the Messiah comes back, we are his king. We are his military. We're the ones who are going to go and fight and wage war against these people. You can read about this in Joel chapter 2. We are his battle axe, and we are going to be swift, and we are going to be quick, and there'll never be another like us, ever again, throughout many generations, it says in the book of Joel. Chapter 20. I saw a messenger coming down from heaven, having the key to the pit of the deep, and a great chain was in his hand. And he seized that dragon, the serpent of old, who is the devil and Satan, and bound him for 1,000 years. This is a literal 1,000 years he is going to be shut up. And he threw him into the pit of the deep, yours may say abyss, and shut him up and set a seal on him so that he should lead the nations no more astray until the 1,000 years were ended. And after that, he has to be released for a little while. So now let me stop there. And I'm sure many of you have heard this lying teaching that's going around, this false teaching that we're in Satan's little season. Oh man, that thing sickens me so much to even think about it, to even talk about it right now. It's I don't even know why we even have to talk about it, but I have to because some of you have drank the Kool-Aid and you think we're in Satan's little season. Let me share with you something that is causing all of this to be wrong. And I want you to follow me. If the 1,000 years began at 70 AD, okay, when Emperor Titus Flavius came and destroyed the second temple in 70 AD, that was prophesied by the Messiah in Matthew chapter 24, Mark chapter 13, and Luke chapter 21. If that was the beginning of the millennial reign, the 1,000-year period, then we're all off on our time frame, because the Messiah was to appear in the fourth millennium, also known as the fourth day. A day is 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is a day unto Yahuah. This is why, symbolically speaking, he created the sun, the moon, and the stars on the fourth day. Hear me out, Mishpachah. The creator, the Messiah, he's the creator. Okay? Some of you are probably like, what? This guy don't know. Nope. Let's hear me out. Let me do this. We're going to come back to this passage, but I got to set this right so you understand what we're talking about when we're talking about the 1,000 years, okay? Because you have people out here talking about TURAH and all this other ancient megalithic buildings, and nobody knows how they created it. Just because you don't know how they created it doesn't mean it's some kind of mystery, all right? These people were masons. They understood how to work with stone, heavy stones. Okay, we just don't build it that way because it takes forever to build big old megalithic type of buildings using nothing but stone. But nonetheless, going back to what we're talking about, the Messiah was to appear in the fourth millennium. This is why he created the sun on the fourth day. This is why he created the moon on the fourth day. This is why he created the stars on the fourth day. So you're probably like wondering, like, well, what does all this have to do? So symbolically speaking, the creator, what did he say in the book of Isaiah? He said he spoke the end from the beginning. He told us in those 7 days of what we call the week, 6 days of creation, 7th day of rest, he literally laid out the time frame of Adam's kind, of what was going to happen. Now, if you are one that's dumb enough to believe that the 1,000 years started in 70 AD, you done made a mockery of everything that Yahuah said he was going to do, because he says that he is not going to strive with man forever. He is going to limit his years to 120. Genesis chapter 6, I think it's verse 3. Or is it verse 5? Can't quite remember. We can go there. But still, it's there. That 120 represents 120 Jubilee years. Each Jubilee year is 50 years. So if you multiply 50 by 120, you get 6,000 years. Remember, a day is 1,000 years and 1,000 years is a day. So he's saying that 6,000 years of human history, he's going to put up with man for 120 Jubilee years, or to say for 6,000 years. And then he's going to come and he's going to set up the 1,000 years of rest, which would be the 7th day, also known as the Sabbath. So the Messiah came in the 4th day. So how are you going to say that the millennial reign has already happened? You just move the 7th day right after the 4th day. That don't make any sense. But people who don't understand this stuff, they want to go and they want to make up their own doctrine, because they talking about this mud flood and all this, and New Jerusalem sitting out in the middle of the ocean in this area where there's these 3 hours that are accounted for because there's no time zone between Russia and Alaska. So this is where New Jerusalem must be sitting at, and they call it the island of Yeshu or Yesho or Yasso or whatever, and they want to say that's Jesus. First of all, we know that that's not even his name. And if there is something like that out there, do you not understand that Satan is trying to lead everyone astray with these lies? If you understand the pattern, and there's a pattern in everything that Yahuah is doing, if you don't see the pattern, that's why you're going to be led astray by other people who are teaching you garbage, and you're being led astray by every sound and wind of doctrine that comes your way. These people don't know who the people of the book are. If you at least understood who the people of the book are, you know that the 1,000 years couldn't have come yet, because the children of Israel who the contract, who the agreement was made with, all of their eyes aren't open yet. He said he's going to bring them back to the land. Those people who are over there right now calling themselves Jews and are not, Revelation 2:9-3-9, that right there tells you that the millennial reign hasn't happened yet, because these people are still here. They're still ruling and reigning over Jerusalem, just like it was told to us in Luke chapter 21, verse 24. The Gentiles shall trample on Jerusalem. But when the times of the Gentiles are fulfilled, we're taking back that city that belongs to us. That's our homeland. That's our hometown. That belongs to us. That belongs to you and me. All of us who believe and bow the knee and confess Yahusha out of our mouth. That is our home. That's our place. That's why we're not in Satan's little season. And I hope if you are one of those who are thinking that way, I hope you reconsider and think about what I just told you about when the Messiah was to appear. And just to give you more credence about that, he was supposed to come in the fourth millennium. Again, the SUN represents the Messiah. The moon represents John the Baptist. The 12 stars or the 12 constellations represent the 12 disciples. They all appeared in the fourth millennium. So what did the fifth day represent? If the fourth day had to do with the son who came down in the form of man, and we had John the Baptist that appeared, and remember, he's just reflecting the light of the sun. He is not the light. Remember, that's what he said in John chapter 1. Do you not remember? He said, I am not that light. I come here to what? To make way straight the way of the Messiah, to make straight the way of Yahuah. He's the one that's crying out in the wilderness. He's the one that's reflecting that light. He's the one that's shining his light. And the 12 disciples came and they took upon that same light and they went out and did what they were supposed to do. And what did he say? He says, I'm going to make you fishers of men. That's what the fifth day was all about. He had the seas teeming with life. That's the fifth day. He made them fishers of men. This is when the evangelism was going on in the fifth millennium. Hallelujah. We're in the sixth day. He is making us into a perfect man. We're not perfect yet, but we're almost perfect. Because remember, Adam and Yahuah was created at the end of the sixth day, right before the seventh day. And so here we are now becoming fully man. We're understanding who we fully are by having these things restored unto us, the true calendar, the true name, the true people of the book, the true doctrine. All of this is happening right now at this very end time. We're at the very end of the sixth day, getting ready to go into the millennium, the seventh day, the millennial reign. Hallelujah. You should be jumping for joy right now because the millennial reign hasn't come already. You still have part in the first resurrection. Hallelujah. Because if we're in Satan's little season, then we got to deal with the second resurrection, and some of us ain't gonna make it. His whoever's name is not found in that book, you finna be tossed into the lake of fire. But there are people who are teaching this nonsense that we're in Satan's little season. And every time I think about this person comes up in my head, two people, in fact, that come up in my head that sickens me about this whole concept. And I'm only saying this because I have a zeal for Abba Yahuwah's word, and he has given me understanding of his prophecies, and that does not line up with his prophecies anywhere. It doesn't line up. So let's continue. Now we're going to talk about how these thrones were set up. Verse 4, and I saw thrones, and they that sat on them, judgment was given to them. And the lives of those who had been beheaded because of the witness they bore to Yahusha are Mashiach. And because of the word of Yahuah Elohim, that would be the Tanakh, what people erroneously call the Old Testament, because there's nothing old about it. That is the foundation of our belief, the Tanakh, the scriptures. And who did not worship the beast nor his image, and did not receive his mark upon their foreheads or upon their hands. And they lived, and they lived, and they lived, and reigned with the Messiah for 1,000 years. And the rest of the dead did not come up to life until the 1,000 years were ended. This is the first resurrection. Baruch and set apart Kadash is the one having part in the first resurrection. The second death possesses no authority over these, but they shall be priests to Yahuah Elohim and of the Mashiach, and shall reign with him 1,000 years. Now, let's back this up for a second. Now we also have to talk about another false teaching. There are those that say, well, our sisters, our Akutoots, they're not going to be ruling and reigning as kings and priests because kings are men and they're women. What got you thinking like that? Why are you still thinking fleshly? Why do you think that a woman is still going to be a woman and a man is still going to be a man when the Messiah told us we're not going to be given in marriage, nor are we going to be married? We're going to be just like the Malachim in the heavens. We're going to be sons of Yahuah Elohim, just like they are sons of Yahuah Elohim. Do you not understand that we're not the only ones created in his image and likeness, that the angels were also created in his image and after his likeness? That's why every time that somebody saw an appearance of an angel, they said he looked like one, like the son of Adam or the son of man. They don't walk around having wings. That's all Catholic, thinking that they're these little cherubims looking like little fat babies walking around with these little wings and got a whole bunch of baby fat on them with diapers. This is all their renaissance of what they want you to believe. And this is why Yahuah says, don't make any images, because subliminally these images is causing you to error. You're looking at things, and I see people doing it right now with these black Jesuses with dreadlocks. Yes, the Messiah is melanated, but you don't make an image after what you think he looks like. Because now you put this image in people's minds, and now this is what they're going to believe, just like they did with the blonde hair, blue eye Jesus. They did the same thing with that. We were talking about this just yesterday, how people were saying, oh, Trump is trying to act like he's Jesus when he put his hand on that, whatever post it was, when he had his hand on this man that was laying on a gurney. And making it, and he's portraying himself to be Jesus. Why would you even have that thought come across your mind? Because you think that image already places him in the form of Jesus. That's idol worship. Has no place in this truth. None at all. You want an image of the Creator? You are his image. You want to see the likeness of the Creator? You're supposed to be his likeness. You're looking at him. Every time you look at yourself in the mirror, you have been created in his image and after his likeness. You have been wonderful and fearfully made in his image. So why are you concocting this image, be it melanated or not? Why are you doing this? Why are you looking at these things? Why are you putting it on your t-shirts? Why are you walking around and acting like this is how it's supposed to be? Stop it with this nonsense. The Creator don't care about your paint job. He cares about your obedience. He cares about your heart condition. He cares about your mindset. Do you not understand your flesh profits nothing? Your skin color profits nothing. Our skin is filthy. It's fleshly. And it needs to be destroyed. It's just a bag of flesh. And you're putting all this prominence in color. It's ridiculous. Has nothing to do with this walk whatsoever. But you want to know history? Yes, our Creator is melanated. He came in that form. He came in that fashion. He chose that for himself. No one chose that for him. He chose himself to be that way. He wanted to come down as a melanated man. He's the one that created Adam in a melanated form. He's the one that created and made a choice to say he's going to make this contract, this agreement with a melanated people that he called Yasharal. He chose that. So don't get mad at the messenger who's over here telling you the truth because you want to see yourself in him. You should see yourself in him because you were made in his image and likeness. After all, it doesn't matter about the paint job. This is just a temporary body of flesh that we're all dwelling in. This is temporary. But what you do in this temporary body, you're going to give an account for what you do and what you say and what you think. And so I bring all that up to say this. Nowhere do you see in verse 4 that it says only the men shall rule and reign. It doesn't say anything about only the men were beheaded because of the witness that they bore to Yahusha. It don't say nowhere in here that only men are going to rule and reign, kings and priests, and that the women, our Kodis, our sisters, are not going to rule and reign with us. How dare we to think that way? Who is you and who is me to even place somebody in that position? We have no place to convict nobody. We have no place to condemn anybody. Either we're going to speak this truth and we're going to show it with love and we are tough and stern and strong when it comes to the doctrine, or you're going to be tossed to and fro with every sound and wind of doctrine that comes your way, like Christianity and Islam and Buddhism and Taoism and all the other isms that are out there. So again, it says, and I saw thrones, that's male and female, women and men, and they sat on them, and judgment was given to them. It didn't say given to the males. It doesn't say only to the men. And it says in the lives of those who had been beheaded. You think that the Messiah is going to separate and say, okay, all you men who were beheaded, you're going to be kings. All you women who weren't beheaded, you're going to be servants. Where is that in the book? No, it says that all who have been beheaded because of the witness that they bore to Yahushua. And I'm going to tell you something. Some of our sisters have way more faith, way more amunah, way more strongness and standing firm on this doctrine than most of us men. That's why more, even on my channel right now, there's more women than there are men listening to this right now. You go into any so-called pagan temple called a church right now, and what do you see in there? Mostly women. Go to practically every religion on this earth. You'll see more women, except for probably Buddhism. You'll see more women than men. Why is that? Because women are usually more loyal. Men were brute. This is why the Messiah, I'm going to give you a little side note. This is why the Messiah came down and not one woman was part of his inner circle. All 12 that he handpicked were men, including the one that betrayed him. He says, did I not choose you, the 12? He didn't choose Mary Magdalene. Mary Magdalene chose him to follow him. She became a follower. The Messiah chose the 12, including Judas. Why did he choose men? Because in us, the men, you and me, all of you Akis out there, we're not balanced, but we need to be balanced. And this is what the Messiah came to do. He was like, stop fighting with your hands. Speak with your mouth. Fight with your mouth. Yeah, you can physically do it. It's easy for you when you get frustrated. You just have to go physical. That's what us men do. When we are tired of talking, we use hands and feet. When a woman is tired of talking, she does more talking. She keeps talking. That's what aggravates us men. And we say, that's it. And you start putting your hands on your wife. You shouldn't do that. You're to control yourself. You're to have that bridled strength. This is what the Messiah was trying to teach us men, so that we may understand what it means to be the head of our household, the head of the people, and the head of this, what is moving on and going forward, this movement. If we don't have strong men, then we are finished. And this is why he went to the men, to make disciples amongst yourselves, to be this way, to follow after him, to keep the commandments, to follow his statutes. Oh, yeah, we done lost a whole bunch of people with that one. Yeah, because we got a lot of male chauvinists out there. Just like James Brown said, this is a man's world, but it would be nothing without a woman or a girl. That's our other half. They come from us. Yahuah is bringing us back into unity. Look at that. Another tendon fell off. They don't like this truth, boy, I tell you. And so the women, along with the men, shall rule and reign for 1,000 years. And we're going to talk about this 1,000 years and who it is that we're going to be ruling and reigning over here in a minute. But let's continue. And so it says in verse 7, and when the 1,000 years have ended, Satan shall be released from his prison. Satan shall be released from his prison. So while we're here with the Messiah for 1,000 years, ruling and reigning over these other people, these other subjects, Satan hasn't been released yet. So these people, their mind, they can't go astray really as it is. And we're told in the book of Isaiah that a child will be considered 100 years old. They'll be living like it was before the days of Noah. Their years will be long, and they will have many children. Imagine how many children a person can have in just 200 years. Imagine if you live 500 years, 600 years. How many children can you make? And how many of those children can make children? And those children can make children. They're going to be like the sand of the seashore. And this is what we're reading right here. And Satan was released from his prison at the end of the 1,000 years. And he shall go out to lead the nations astray that are in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them together for battle, whose number is as the sand of the sea. This goes to show you how much Procreating is going to be going on at this time during the millennial reign. And you and me are not the ones who are procreating. We are in our eternal bodies. There is a sister, and she's not the only one, so I can't point her out. I can't name her. But there are people who are teaching that we're going to still getting married and we're going to be having babies. That's not scripture. That's not scripture. We're going to be in our eternal bodies, immortal bodies. We are not having children anymore. There's others that are going to have children. These are the ones that we're going to be ruling and reigning over. They're going to be our subjects. That's why for us to be a king, we must have subjects. For us to be priests, there's someone that we're teaching the Torah to. Who are these people? We're going to get into that. Scripture tells us who they are. And it says, and those who have been that were led astray by Satan, they shall come up over the breadth of the earth and surround the camp of the set apart ones and the beloved city. And fire came down from Yahuah Elohim out of the Shammah and consumed them. And the devil who led them astray was thrown into the lake of fire and sulfur, where the beast, which is the false Messiah, and the false prophet are, and they shall be tortured day and night forever and ever. Forever and ever. That's the end of Satan. Satan is done after this war of Gog and Magog. But this war of Gog and Magog is not going to be anything like what we're getting ready to see with the Battle of Armageddon. So what we're getting ready to see, what did the Messiah says? He said that when this time comes, there's never going to be a time ever like it ever again, nor ever shall be. So what we're reading here after the 1,000 years is not going to even compare to what we're getting ready to see, which is the Great Tribulation. We're about to see what no other civilization has ever seen, people. We are the generation. But when this goes down after the 1,000 years, this war of Gog and Magog, not only is it a one-sided fight, but it is going to be a quick one. Abba Yahuah, I don't know exactly how he's going to do it, but it seems as though all of us, the Kadashim, along with the Mashiach, we're going to be gone, like instantly. And everything that's left here on the earth, he's going to melt it away. He's going to burn it with fire. He's going to destroy everything. All those people who are following Satan are going to die instantaneously. And the next thing they're going to know is what we're getting ready to read right now, verse 11. And I saw a great white throne and him who sat on it, from whose face the arats and the heaven fled away. Notice it only talks about one throne. It doesn't say great white thrones, plural. It says a great white throne, one throne, one throne. And there was no place found for the sun and the heavens. And I saw the dead. These are the ones who are now coming up. Those who just died instantaneously from this fire. And those who have died since the days of Adam. They're all being brought up. And I saw the dead, small and great, standing before the throne, one throne. And books, plural, were opened. And another book, singular, was opened. That is the book of life. And the dead were judged from what was written in the books, plural, according to their works. Now, many of you, as I used to be a Christian, and we're over here talking about, we don't have to worry about our works because we're not saved by our works. But here it is, they're being judged by their works. And see, the sea gave up the dead and who were in it. And death and Sheol, the grave, gave up the dead who were in them. So they have been resurrected. This is the second resurrection. And they were judged, each one according to their works. And death and Sheol were thrown into the lake of fire. So if you are in this place called death and Sheol, this pit where the rich man, we was given the parable that the Messiah talked about the rich man and Lazarus, and there was this gulf between them. And Abraham says, we can't come over there to you, and you can't cross over and come over here to us because of this great gulf. And we're told that this pit enlarged itself because of the many people who are being disobedient ended up in there. They're in this cavern to this very day. And people who are dying daily without the Messiah, without keeping his commandments, they are going there. They're filling this pit up. And on this day, they're all going to be standing before him. And if their names are not found written in the book of life, and if they've been here all these centuries in death and Sheol, and I'm not going to name people that, because I don't know who's in there, but we know them by their fruits. There's a whole bunch of people up in there who thought that they were saved, who thought that they knew the Messiah and yet did not keep his commandments. They followed the traditions and the commandments of men rather than the commandments of Yahuah, and they found themselves in the wrong place. And if you're in that place, you're going from the jail to the penitentiary. That's exactly what's happening. You're going straight from the jail, which is a temporary place, which is this cavernous pit, and now you're going to be judged before the courts. Because remember, us Kadashim, the saints of the Most High, we're the ones who are going to be judging on that day. It's all given to us. Let me show you. Let's go to the book of Daniel. In the book of Daniel, chapter 7, it says this. Let me start here. Chapter 7, verse 9. I was looking until the thrones, plural, were set up, and the Ancient of Days was seated. His garment was white as snow, and the hair of his head was like clean wool. His throne was the flame of fire, its wheels burning fire. A stream of fire was flowing and coming forth from his presence, and 1,000 thousands served him. That's you and I. And 10,000 times 10,000 stood before him. Again, that's you and I. The judge was seated, and the books, plural, just like what we read in Revelation chapter 20, were opened. Now we go over here. Verse 13. I was looking in the night visions. Notice it says visions, which means that this is all symbolism, but it's showing you what is to come. And saw one like the son of Anosh. This is our Messiah, coming with the clouds of the heavens, right? Second coming. And he came to the Ancient of Days. This is who we would know as the Father. And they brought him near before him. Again, Daniel is seeing a vision. Symbolism, so he can understand what he is seeing. Okay? And to him was given rulership. To who? The Son, the Messiah, the same Messiah that says, you have never seen the Father at any time. You have never seen his form. You have never heard his voice at any time. This is why we know that this is a vision. No one will ever see the Ancient of Days except through the Son. He is the only one that you will ever see. And it says, and it was to him that was given rulership and preciousness and the kingdom, the reign, that all peoples, every nation, this is all ethnic groups and languages, should serve him. His rule is an everlasting rule that shall not pass away, and his reign that shall not be destroyed. Now let's go down to verse 18. Then the set apart ones of the Most High shall receive the kingdom. That's you and I. We will receive the kingdom and possess the kingdom forever, even forever and ever. Man, I look forward to that day. I look forward to that day. Now we go down to verse 22. Until the Ancient of Days came, and the right ruling was given to who? The Kadashim, the set apart ones. Judgment was given to us, the Kadashim of the Most High, the set apart ones of the Most High. Yours may say the saints of the Most High. And the time came for the set apart ones to take possession of the kingdom. Again, what did the Son say? What did the Messiah say? It is the Father's great pleasure to give you the kingdom. Hallelujah. Yahuah. And so it goes on and says here at the very end, but judgment shall sit. And they, that's you and me, shall take away its rule. Who's its rule? That's what we was just reading. The marriage supper of the Lamb. We're going to take away his authority. We're going to take away his power. We're going to take away his rule. We're going to cut it off and to destroy it until the end. And the kingdom and the rulership and the greatness of all the kingdoms under all the heavens shall be given to us, the people. The set apart ones, the Kadashim, you may know it as the saints of the Most High. His rule, his kingdom is an everlasting kingdom, and all rulership shall serve him and obey him. This is us. And this is what the apostle Shaul, aka Paul, said. Some of you saying that he's a false prophet, you better check yourself before you get wrecked. I don't want to say it like the old hip hop, before you wreck yourself. But I want you to understand this, not being funny. 1 Corinthians chapter 6 says this. Do you not know that the Kadashim, the set apart ones, shall judge the world? And if you are going to judge the world, are you unworthy to judge the smallest matters? Do you not know that we shall also judge the angels? Remember what we read in Daniel chapter 7. It shall all be given into our hands. This is the same thing that our Messiah promised us to those who overcome. What did he say here? And he who overcomes, this is chapter 2, verse 26 of Revelation. And he who overcomes and guards my works unto the end, to him I shall give authority over the nations. Authority over the nations. And he shall shepherd them. He, you and me, shall shepherd them with the rod of iron, as potter's vessels shall be broken to pieces, as I have also received from my Father. So what is he doing? He's saying, look, I got this authority from my Father, and I'm going to give it to you, my body of believers. You're going to rule and reign with me forever and ever and a day. Hallelujah. Yahuah. And so we go back here to Revelation chapter 20. And so who's going to do all of this? You and me. We're going to rule over these people. So now, let's connect this with this war of Gog and Magog from Ezekiel. This is another erroneous teaching from Christianity and their eschatological teachers, their end-time teachers. Again, this is why I was saying, if you don't know who the true people of the book are, you're going to make a huge mistake in prophecy. If you believe that the coming back of these so-called Jewish people in 1945 is the promise of Ezekiel chapter 37 about the dry bones prophecy, you are hugely mistaken. You are hugely mistaken. Let's read this together. Ezekiel chapter 37, verse 1. Notice here I have entitled Dry Bones Prophecy, First Resurrection, because that's what this is. This is literally talking about a resurrection. Okay? I need you to block out what you think you know because of what you have been taught by those who think they know what they're talking about. I want you to see it by the eyes of the Ruach, by the Spirit, Mishpachah, and you're going to see that what is being told to us, what is being given to us, is an account of the first resurrection. The hand of Yahuah was upon me, and he took me out by the Ruach of Yahuah. Same thing he did with John in Revelation chapter 4. And set me down in the midst of the valley, and it was filled with bones. And he made me pass among them all around, and see, there were very, very many on the surface of the valley. And see, they were very dry. And he said to me, Son of Adam, would these bones live, or could these bones live, is another way it should be written. Could these bones live? And I said, Oh, Master Yahuah, you know. And again, Yahuah said to me, Prophesy, meaning speak to these bones. And you shall say to them, O dry bones, hear the word of Yahuah. What are they to hear? The word of Satan? No, the word of Yahuah, his words. Thus said the Master Yahuah to these bones, See, I am bringing into you a spirit, Napash, and you shall live. And I shall put sinews on you, which is tendons, and bring flesh upon you, and cover you with skin, and put the Ruach in you, which is the breath of life in you, and you shall live. And you shall know that I am Yahuah. Now, what we just read from here is letting you know this is a resurrection. But to show more proof, let's continue. It goes on and says here, And I shall put sinew on you and bring flesh upon you and cover you with skin and put a ruach in you, and you shall live, and you shall know that I am Yahuwah. And I prophesied, and as I was commanded. And as I prophesied, or as I spoke, there was a noise, and there was a rattling, and the bones came together, bone to bone. And I looked and saw sinews and flesh came upon them, and skin covered them, but there was no ruach in them. There was no breath of life in them. Again, we're literally being told step-by-step process of the resurrection, how this is going to occur. He's going to put all the bones back together, even if you have been annihilated through what we call what do they call that when they bury people now and they just burn them up? Cremation. Even if you have been cremated and your family members done strewn your remains all throughout the seas, and we're in a river, and the river takes away all of your ashes, the creator that I serve can bring all those ashes back together, and he can bring you back to life. That's who we serve. He knows every piece of particle of Adam, wherever you are, even if it's in the bottom of the sea, and you became fish food, and you became part of the bottom of the sea, he will bring you up from there. And he said to me, speak to the spirit, prophesy, son of Adam, and you shall say to the ruach, to the wind, the breath of life, thus said the Master Yahuwah, come from the four winds, O ruach, and breathe on these unalived ones, breathe on those who are killed, so that they live. Again, we're talking about a resurrection. And I prophesied as he had commanded me, and the ruach came into them, the spirit, the breath, the napash. This isn't the ruach, this is the napash, this is the breath of life, came into them, and they lived, and they stood upon their feet, a resurrection, a very great army. And he said to me, son of Adam, these bones are all, not some, not just one tribe called Judah, not one who just calls themselves the Jewish people, who said that they are the people of the book, and they went over there and stole somebody else's land and say that they are the Jews. No, this is all 12 tribes. This is all the house of Israel. See, they say, our bones are dry. Our expectancy has perished, and we ourselves have been cut off. Who is he talking about? He's talking about the original Jews and the original Israelites. They were cut off. Cut off from who? Cut off from Yahuwah. He said, I'm going to make a quick end on this earth. Those of you who disobey, you're going to become dirt. From dust you were taken, and dust you shall go back. You are cut off. This is what we're saying. Therefore prophesy, speak to them. You shall say to them, thus said the Master Yahuwah, see, O my people, I am opening your burial sites. I'm opening up your graves, resurrection, and shall bring you up from your burial sites, your graves, resurrection, and shall bring you into the land of Yasharal. What's going to happen at the second coming? When he blows that trumpet, that last trumpet, are we not going to be changed in the twinkling of an eye? Are we not going to have the sinew and the bones come together and the flesh put on us, and we're going to have this breath of life put back on us, and we're coming out of our burial sites? And he's going to take us where? To our land. We're not living up in heaven. We're going to our land, that land that the Gentiles are trampling on right now. Those who call themselves Jews and are not right now. 13. And you shall know that I am Yahuwah when I open your burial sites, your graves, my people, and bring you up from your burial sites. And I shall put my ruach in you, and you shall live, and I shall settle you in your own land, not in the United States of America, not in Canada, not in Latin America, not in Australia, not in New Zealand, not in China, not in the continent of Africa, not in Western Europe. No, he's going to bring us back to our own land. And you shall know that I am Yahuwah, and I have spoken, and I have done this, or I have done it, declares Yahuwah. And the word of Yahuwah came to me, saying, and you, son of Adam, speaking to Yazakal, Ezekiel, take a stick for yourself and write on it for Yahudah. This is the tribe of Yahudah. And for the children of Yasharal, his companions, who is that? Benjamin and Levi. Then take another stick, and write on it for Joseph, the stick of Ephraim, and all the houses of Yasharal and his companions. Who is that? That's the 10 lost tribes, the northern tribes. Then bring them together for yourselves into one stick, and they shall become one in your hand. And when the children of your people speak to you, saying, won't you show us what you mean by this? Say to them, thus said the master Yahuah, see, I am taking the stick of Yosef that is in the hand of Ephraim, and the tribes of Yasharal, his companions, and I shall give them unto him with the stick of Yahudah, and make them one stick, and they shall be one in my hand. Did not the Messiah say the same thing in the book of Yohanan, in the book of John? He says that I have other fold that are not of this fold, and I have to bring them all together, and they shall be one, and they shall have one shepherd over them. Hallelujah. Verse 20. And the sticks on that you write shall be in your hand before your eyes, and speak to them, thus says the master Yahuah. See, I am taking the children of Yasharal from among the nations. Where is he going to take us from? From among the nations. Why are we in the nations? Because we disobeyed, our ancestors disobeyed, and he sent us into captivity to the four corners of the earth because we made him jealous. We did not stay faithful. Our ancestors were not faithful. So he's going to bring us back. He says, see, I am taking the children of Yasharal from among the nations. This is why I'm telling you all right now, we're in the second Exodus right now. We're in the wilderness of the peoples right now. But he's going to bring us back from the wilderness of the peoples, from our captivity, and bring us back to our own land. But the rebels amongst us shall not enter into that promised land. No, 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 they will not. Wherever they have gone, I shall gather them from all around, and I shall bring them into their land. Their land. So who brought those people over there to the state of Israel, as they call it today? It wasn't our creator. No, it was James Balfour. He's a politician from Great Britain. The Balfour Declaration. It was the United Nations that made this possible, not Yahuah. And who did they bring back? People who were never to be there to begin with. But it was already prophesied in the book of Genesis chapter 9 that the tents of Shem shall be occupied by Japheth. The boundaries, remember what we read earlier, that we are not to remove those boundaries of those ancient boundaries. We are not to take someone else's land, but this is exactly what these occupiers did, who call themselves Israelites right now, or they call themselves Israelis, and they call themselves Jewish. The Zionists. And I shall make them one nation in the land and the mountains of Yasharal, on the mountains of Yasharal, and one sovereign shall be sovereign over them. Who would that be? Our Messiah. And let them no longer be two people. There no longer shall be a northern kingdom and a southern kingdom. There shall not be the kingdom of Judah and the kingdom of Israel. No, they're going to be one. And let them no longer be divided into two kingdoms. And they shall no longer defile themselves with their idols, like crosses and crescents and Buddha statues, nor with their disgusting matters, nor with any of their transgressions. And I shall save them from all their dwelling places in that they have sinned, and I shall cleanse them. How is he going to cleanse us? By the blood of the Lamb, by the blood of his bane, his son, Yahushua HaMashiach. And they shall be my people, and I will be their mighty one. When is this going to happen? Millennial reign. That's what it's talking about right here. Remember, we just read about the resurrection. We came out of the grave, and now he's going to dwell in amongst us. This is what we call the Feast of Sukkot, the Feast of Tabernacles, the indwelling, the ingathering. And while David, my servant, is sovereign over them, this again we know is symbolism, symbolic language of who our Messiah would come through, the lineage of David, from the house of David. And they shall all have one shepherd and walk in my right rulings and guard my TURAH, my laws, and shall do them. What we've been taught in Christianity? Oh, the laws have been done away with. We talk about this all the time, but here it is. In the millennial reign, we gonna do them laws. Just like those of us who are trying to do them now. If you're not trying to do them now, you're showing your rear end. You're showing that you are a rebel. You're showing that you are not with him. You are not his child. You are lawless. You are Torahless. And he's going to say, depart from me. I never knew you. And they shall dwell in the land that I have given to Jacob, my servant, where your fathers dwelt, and they shall dwell in it, they and their children and their children's children forever. And my servant Dawood will be the prince, their prince forever. And I shall make an agreement of shalom with them, an everlasting agreement. It is with them. With who? The children of Yasharal, not with Christians. It's with the children of Yasharal. And I shall place them and increase them, and shall place my set apart place in their midst forever. This again is the millennial reign. And my dwelling place shall be over them, and I shall be their mighty one, and they shall be my people. And the nations shall know that I, Yahuah, am setting Yasharal apart. Does it say Christians apart? No, he says I am setting Israel apart when I set my set apart place in their midst forever. Once you start seeing this with the eyes of a Nazarene and stop looking at it with the eyes of Christianity, you start to see Israel is everywhere from Genesis all the way to Revelation. The 12 gates, the 12 tribes of Israel. You don't see nothing about no Christians there. Not at all. Except for people who want to insert themselves and say, this is talking about Christians. No, it's not. No, it's not. The Messiah didn't teach us Christianity. The Roman Catholic Church gave us Christianity, and the Roman Catholic Church got it from Satan. Satan gave us Christianity. Now notice chapter 38, how it goes into Gog and Magog. We come all the way to this point because I had to read chapter 37 so you can see how it parallels with Revelation chapter 20. Remember, Revelation chapter 20 said what about those who were beheaded in verse 4? That they came back to life. It's the resurrection. Baruch are those who are of the first resurrection. That's Ezekiel chapter 37. We just read it. What happened after that? It says that they were resting and ruling and reigning with him for a whole 1,000 years. And at the end of the 1,000 years, Satan must be released. Well, that's what we're getting ready to read now. But it doesn't talk about Satan per se in his name. But this is what we're reading in Revelation chapter 20. The same war of Gog and Magog. There's not two wars of Gog and Magog. Christianity has you believing that what's going on right now in the Middle East, right now with Iran and with Russia, they got you believing that that is the war of Gog and Magog. I don't know how many times I done heard that. John Hagee says it. Jonathan Cahn says it. Perry Stone says it. The list goes on and on about these Christian pastors and preachers and evangelists that are saying what's going on right now in the Middle East is the war of Gog and Magog, and that can't be further from the truth. I'm showing it to you right now. The resurrection must come first, and then the war of Gog and Magog happens. So what's going on over there right now, because the resurrection hasn't happened, cannot be the Gog and Magog war. Can't. It doesn't fit. It's not part of the pattern. What we're seeing right now is the second seal. It's the red horse. Has nothing to do with Gog and Magog. It's totally different. Totally different. So let's see if this sounds like what we read in Revelation. And the word of Yahuah came to me saying, Son of Adam, set your face against Gog in the land of Magog, the prince of Rosh. This has nothing to do with Russia, as your Christian pastors and preachers and teachers would like you to believe. Rosh here in the Hebrew means head. Russia doesn't mean head. Meshach is not Moscow. These are the lineage of Japheth, the Caucasians. This is all Caucasian right here that we're talking about. I'm going to show you. The prince of Rosh, Meshach, and Tubal, and prophesy against him. And you shall say, thus says the master Yahuah, see, I am against you, O Gog, the prince of Rosh, Meshach, and Tubal. Well, let's go to Genesis chapter 10. You see, when you don't to show yourself approved, people can tell you and make you say, well, look, it says Rosh. That's Russia. Get out of here. It's ridiculous. Let me bring this back. You see how it talks about here? The sons of Japheth. We know this to be the European bloodline. Gomer and what? Who's this? Who's this? Who's this? Oh, who is this? But wait a minute. That looks familiar. Ashkenazi Jews? You mean they are Europeans? Those who call themselves Jews and are not? I thought they were the true Jews. No, they are European. They're from the lineage of Japheth. They're not Shemites. They're Yaphites. Look at how many Christians are so deluded right now. They're in this deranged syndrome. They don't want, you can show them this all day and they still won't believe you. I'm telling you right now, there's some people in here right now that are listening to me. Even though I'm showing them this, they're still going to block it out their brain as if that isn't what it says. Because they hate the truth that much. They hate it that much. Look, some people already left. It's disgusting. It's terrible that they don't have the time and the effort because it's not in them to want to know the truth. They don't want to know this. But I'm showing you who it is. You think that it's something different because it's written here in the book of Ezekiel about Gog and Magog? It's telling you who they are. They're Europeans. And the Creator says, I'm against you. He's not saying he's against all Europeans. He's not against Caucasians. He's talking about those who have this mindset, who come from this bloodline. Because many of you know that are Gentiles, you can cling on to Israel. You can become Israel. You can be part of Israel, and you will be Israel. But some of you can't stomach this truth. Verse 4. And I shall turn, back in Ezekiel chapter 38, I shall turn you around, and I shall put hooks in your jaws, and shall lead you out, and all your army, horses and horsemen, clad perfectly, a great assembly with armor and shields, all them handling swords, Persia and Cush and Put. Now we have somebody else that's connected. These right here, except for Persia, Cush and Put is connected to the Hamites. The Persians are connected, if I remember correctly, with the Shemites. And it says, all of them with shield and helmet. Gomer. We just read Gomer. Remember, Gomer is the dad of the Ashkenaz. He's the firstborn of Japheth. Gomer and all his bands, the house of Togomar, from the far north. So it's telling you who they are. They're Europeans. And all his bands, many peoples with you. This is going to happen after the 1,000 years. These Caucasians, the expansioners, that's what Yaphite means. Japheth means expansionists. They expand their horizons. They're the ones that's always going out talking about they're going to go in and do some research in this. These are the ones that's always wanting to go out there and do some crazy stuff like swimming with sharks and going up to Mount Everest and going out into space and doing all that. They are into these kind of things. Extreme sports. It's them. It's in the blood. And so it goes on and says here in verse 7, be ready, prepare yourself, you and all your assemblies that are assembled unto you, and you shall be a guard for them. After many days, you shall be called up. When is this? This is after the 1,000 years. In the latter years, you shall come into the land of those who have been brought back from the sword and gathered from many people, that is from the other nations on the mountains of Israel. So again, it's connecting back to what we just read in chapter 37 about Israel coming back from the grave. The first resurrection has happened, and now they're dwelling safely in the land that was given to their forefathers for 1,000 years. They had come back from the sword. And so this is what it's talking about here. After many days, you shall be called up. In the latter years, you shall come into the land of those who have been brought back from the sword and gathered from many people on the mountains of Yasharal that had been a continual waste. But they were brought out of the peoples, and all of them shall dwell safely. Who are we talking about? Israel. All 12 tribes. And who's amongst them? Our Messiah. He's dwelling with us. He shall be our Elohim, and we shall be his people. He said what? He said he'll make his dwelling with us. This is what he said earlier here. Did he not say it? What did he say? And my dwelling place shall be over them, and I shall be their mighty one, and they shall be my people. He is going to dwell. His set apart place is going to be in our midst forever. So this is him. He's here with us. This is why it says it's a continual waste, because he is not there. But once he is there, it's no longer a waste. It is what it's supposed to be, the promised land. And you shall go up, coming like a storm, covering the land like a cloud, you and all the bands, many people with you. Well, let's see what it says in Revelation about this same passage. Let's go back to Revelation chapter 20. Let's see if this lines up with what we're reading in Revelation, along with what we're reading here. Revelation chapter 20, verse 7. And when the 1,000 years have ended, remember those who had came back from the sword after many years, right? And they're dwelling safely, Satan shall be released from his prison. And he shall go out and lead the nations astray that are in the four corners of the earth. And then it brings up Gog and Magog to gather them together for battle, whose number is as the sand of the sea. And they came up over the breadth, and they came up over the breadth, and they came up over the breadth of the earth, and surrounded the camp of the set apart ones, the Kadashim, that's you and me, and the beloved city. This is the eternal city, Yahushalom, Jerusalem. And fire came down from heaven. It came down from Aluah Elohim out of the Shama and consumed them. Let's go back. And in verse 9, and you shall go up, coming like a storm, covering the land like a cloud, you and all your bands, many peoples with you. Thus said the Master Yahuah. And it shall be in that day that the words arise in your heart, and you shall devise an evil plan, and you shall say, let us go up, or let me go up against a land of unwalled villages. Let me go to those at rest who dwell safely, all of them dwelling without walls and having neither bars nor gates. Look at Israel right now. Look at Israel right now. Those who call themselves Jews and are not. They got all these checkpoints. They got barbed wire fence. They got these stone walls that are separating them from the Palestinians all throughout the land over there. They're not living safely. They're not dwelling safely. They don't have unwalled villages. They're not fulfilling this book whatsoever, other than that they are the so-called synagogue of Satan. Those who call themselves Jews and are not, they're followers of Satan. And it says how they want to plunder and take booty, take our riches, to stretch out your hand against the waste places that are again inhabited, and against the people gathered from the peoples, acquiring livestock and pleasantries, who dwell in the middle of the land. Sheba and Dedan, the merchants of Tarshish, and all their young lions shall say to you, have you come to take plunder? So these people over here, Sheba and Dedan and Tarshish, they're not with them. They're not with Gog and Magog. They're not with Tabul and with Meshach. They're not with them. They're like, are you serious? Y'all getting ready to try to go up against the kingdom? The kingdom of the set apart ones? Wow, y'all messing up here. So this is what it's saying here. Have you come up to take plunder? Have you gathered your army to take booty, to bear away silver and gold, and to take away livestock and their pleasantries, and to take great plunder? Therefore, son of Adam, prophesy, speak, and say, you shall say to Gog, thus said the Master Yahuah, in that day when my people Yasharal dwell safely. Let me say that again. In that day, what day? This is the 1,000 year, the millennial reign, when my people Yasharal, not Christians, Yasharal, not Jews, not the Jewish people. I have to say this because, again, has nothing to do with their with them being who they are, but what they are. It's what they're teaching. It's what their mindset is. We have people in our congregation right now who are bloodline Jewish. They're bloodline Ashkenaz, okay? They've grafted in with us. They're clinging on to the true Messiah. They're not speaking like these Zionists. They're not over here talking like their crap don't stink. They're not acting like they're the ones who is the gift to all of humanity, and we're supposed to be serving and worshiping them instead of worshiping one Jew. We should be worshiping all the Jews, as they say. I heard one of their rabbis say. It's nonsense. Therefore, son of Adam, prophesy, and you shall say to Gog, thus said the Master Yahuah, in that day when my people Yasharal dwell safely, would you not know? Pretty much saying, will you not know this? And you shall come from your place out of the far north. I just told you who they were. They're Yaphites. They're Europeans. They're coming from the north. Again, and you shall come against my people, Yahshua, like a cloud. Well, let me back up. And you shall come from your place out of the far north, you and many peoples with you, all of them riding on horses, a great assembly and a mighty army. And you shall come against my people, Yahshua, like a cloud, to cover the land. In the latter days it shall be. And I shall bring you against my land. My land, the Creator saying it's his land, in order that the nations know me when I am set apart, Kadash, in you, O Gog, before their eyes. He's going to deal with Yaphite's bloodline. Thus said the Master Yahuah, are you the one I spoke of in the former days by my servants, the prophets of Yasharah, who prophesied for years in those days to bring you against them? Exactly. As they're doing to this very day. I'm not talking about all you Caucasians, but the majority of the Caucasians, they can't stand melanated people. Majority of the Caucasians cannot stand the true people of the book. Those who are the elitists of this world, who know who the true people are of this book, they are against us. There's a conspiracy against the true Jews, against the true Israelites. The only people who don't see it is because you're not in our shoes, nor are you looking into it. That's why you don't agree with it. And that's why it causes you to plug your ears. I don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear this. I don't want to hear this. But it's right here in the book. It's right here in the book. And it shall come on that day, on the day when God comes against the land of Yasharah, declares the Master Yahuah, that my wrath shall come up in my face. You hear this? His anger is going to show up in his face. For in my jealousy, in the fire of my wrath, I have spoken. On that day, there shall be a great shaking in the land of Yasharah, so that the fish of the sea and the birds of the heavens and the beasts of the field and all the creeping creatures and the creeps on the earth and all the men who are on the face of the earth shall be shaken at my presence. And the mountains shall be thrown down, and the steep places shall fall, and every wall falls to the ground. And I shall call for a sword against Gog and all my mountains, declares the Master Yahuah, the sword of each one being against his brother. And I shall judge him with pestilence and blood, and rain down flooding rain and hailstone, fire and sulfur on him and on his bands and on the many peoples who are with him. And I shall exalt myself, Rumamu myself, and set myself apart, and I shall be known in the eyes of many peoples, many ethnic groups, and they shall know that I am Yahuah, not the Lord and not God. Revelation chapter 20. What did he say here? When they come up over the breadth of the earth, as the sand of the sea, he says, and they came over the breadth of the earth and surrounded the camp of the set apart ones of the beloved city, and fire came down from Aluah Elohim out of the Shama and consumed them. That's what we're reading over here. What he's going to do to them. He's going to destroy them. He is going to destroy them. And I shall judge him with pestilence and blood, and rain down flooding rain and hailstone, fire and sulfur on him and all the bands that are with him, the many peoples who are with him. And I shall exalt myself and set myself apart, and I shall be known in the eyes of many peoples, and they shall know that I am Yahuah. And you can go on, and it reads even more about Gog and Magog and who they are, and it's so true who these people are. This takes us back to Revelation chapter 20. Right after all of this, we see that judgment day comes. We read about that. He's going to deal with them. They're going to be judged by their works. And then what happens? This takes us into the 8th sequence. But before we go into this 8th sequence, I'm going to read a little bit about who these people are that we're going to be ruling and reigning over for 1,000 years. Give me a second. Let me find it here. Let me turn on the comments and see how everybody's doing out there. Are you enjoying what we're reading right now? Are you enjoying getting your eyes open to this truth of what is happening and what is going on? Hold on, I gotta get past all of this. Okay. Okay, that's Judgment Day. I think I went too far. Let me go back and look here. Give me a second. $35, $37. This is all Babylon's destruction. Where's the millennial reign? Okay. Marriage supper of the Lamb. Okay, so this is where we're going to start from. Let me make sure I got all of this together so I don't mess up here. 208. Okay. Let's see how far we get, because it's a lot to read, and I'm not going to read all of it, but I am going to read some of it. Let me see here. So before I read this, let me see what someone said here. John 6866. Do you believe only the 144,000 are going to heaven? No, I do not. You probably missed some of our other sequence teachings where there's a great cloud of witnesses that were taken in Revelation chapter 7. That was after the sealing of the 144,000, a great number that no one could count that came out of the Great Tribulation. They were also seen in heaven, but we don't stay in heaven. Heaven is not our abode. It belongs to the angels. Our abode is the earth. And this is where we're going to be ruling and reigning with him forever on the earth. Shoshana, we are called Nazarene, or also known as the followers of the way, as it says in the book of Acts. We were never given the title Christian. Christian was given to those who translated the books, and they changed the word from Messianists, or those who followed the Messiah, and they put in the term Christian. And all it takes is a stroke of a pen for somebody to remove somebody and put another name in, and from that point on, history will always record it as them being Christians. But we were not called Christians at the beginning. Christianity came about because of the Roman Catholic Church. Hallelujah, Yahuah. That is great. That is great. Okay, so I'm gonna turn off the comments now. I really appreciate all of you who are here, and I'm gonna open it up again for those of you who have questions here in our next segment, because I want to break this down, and I might go over just a little over 3 hours on this segment, but I'm coming right back because I want to be able to finish the book of Revelation today. Okay, because tomorrow we're going to be dealing with Shabuat. That's our feast day before Abba Yahuah. And so I want to just focus on that tomorrow. But that being said, I'm going to go ahead and shut off the comments, and we'll come back. Alicia, you asked the question, Shalom, do you share your notes, like upload them? I do not. Alicia, is this thing that I did in the book of Revelation is over 200 something pages front and back of me writing this down by hand, but I do not. So this is why I'm sharing it with you. You can always go back and listen to these videos of these. Right now we're on the 5th part. I think it'll only be 5 parts. I hope there's not a 6th, but if it is, then we'll do that. But so as it is right now, it's 5-part series. Okay. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and shut her down, and we'll go from there, and I'll turn it back on after I'm done. Kimberly, you're not stupid. You're not stupid at all. Abba Yahuah is teaching us at our rate. All of us study and learn at different rates, and what opens up one's eyes are going to be different with someone else's, right? But the thing is, as long as you are hungry and thirsty for his righteousness, as long as you're hungry and thirsty for that, he's going to reveal to you what he wants you to know. And that is a promise that he has made to us. Okay. So what I have here in front of me, And again, you can see that I have some, this is, again, you're going to see some of the pagan words here. Do forgive me for that. This is before I came into the truth when I wrote this, but a lot of the things that I wrote here still stands to this day because his word doesn't change. Our understanding changes, but his word doesn't change. So you're going to hear me change up a few things as I'm reading this, but at the same time, I want you to get the gist of what is being told. Now, what I'm sharing with you is not everything. Okay, there's a lot of stuff that goes along with this, and even what I understand is just finite compared to everything that Abba Yahuwah has still to reveal to his people. I'm only seeing in part and knowing in part. I don't know it all, and I'm still learning myself. So as I'm reading some of this, it's coming back to my recollection of what the Messiah taught me in the days when I even put this down pen to paper. Okay. So with that being said, let me go ahead and read this. So this is talking about the sixth sequence. Okay. So this is taking us into the seventh sequence, but I needed to read this part first about the marriage supper of the Lamb. All right. So here it says, and to her, the wife of the Lamb, it was granted to be arrayed in fine linen. So if you guys are following me, I'm right here, fine linen. Okay. Clean and bright, for the fine linen is the righteous. Let me blow this up a little bit more so I can read it better. And bring this down a little bit. Is the righteous acts of the saints. So what are we told by these two verses as far as the marriage supper of the Lamb and of the saints? Okay, this is kind of hard reading it like this. Let me just read it and have you guys listen. All right, I apologize. I can't show all of it as I'm reading it because it makes it difficult. This will take a lot longer if I keep doing it this way. All right, so what is the marriage of the Lamb and who is the Lamb's wife? First, we need to clear something up. That the Mighty One, he explains his own words. The marriage supper of the Lamb is an event that is to take place. Many of us have been taught that the Lamb's wife or the Messiah's wife is the church, and it is not. We've been taught all of this because of the New Testament. One of the passages can be found in Matthew chapter 25, verses 1 to 12, where it talks about the 5 wise virgins and the 5 foolish virgins. The Messiah uses this analogy or parallel in this lesson on how the believers need to be ready. And the Messiah calls himself the bridegroom in this parable. So to make a long story short, over the years, somehow many of us have interpreted this parable that the virgins are the bride of the Messiah. And the Messiah symbolically speaks that he will come to get his bride. But notice, if we take this analogy as it has been taught, we make the Messiah into an adulterer and having more than one bride. The 5 wise virgins should be taught to mean the brides are plural instead of one singular bride. For the Messiah himself taught that a man is to become one with his wife, one man, one woman, and we know that the Messiah is not an adulterer. Far be it for us to even think this way. Yet we know that the 144,000, the assembly of Philadelphia, were considered virgins. However, we know that this is speaking of the 144,000, just like the rest of us, who are the spiritual people in relationship to our Father, for he is a jealous mighty one, and we are to be spiritually virgins to him. Not to any other mighty ones that are before us, but to him only. And so the parable has the same meaning. We are spiritually virgins to our mighty one. This is what it means to be born again. We are born twice. We are now spiritually born from above. And speaking with the mighty one's brides individually, but not physically, the Messiah spoke this parable symbolically. And in the epistle to the Ephesians, the apostle Shaul taught the spiritual lesson. Quote, for a husband is head of the wife, as also the Messiah is the head of the assembly, and he is the Savior of the body. Therefore, just as the assembly is subject to the Messiah, so let the wives also be to their own husbands in every way. Husbands, love your wives just as the Messiah also loved the assembly and gave himself for her, that he might set apart and cleanse her with the washing of the water by the word of Yahuah. Ephesians 5:23-26. Again, here in these few verses, we just read the similarities of a man's relationship with his wife and how it is symbolic, similar to the way we are to the Messiah. Okay, so now, with that being said, let me see here. Am I going backwards? I am going backwards. Let me grab the other ones here. I grabbed the wrong pieces here. All right. So we talked about the marriage supper of the Lamb, okay, and what that is, how we are the ones that are going to be unaliving these militaries of the world, okay. So that's the synopsis here. Let me go to, all right, so now the battle at Armageddon. Battle at Armageddon. Let's read this, or let me read this. In fact, I'll pull it up so you guys can, let me back this out here, because I'm going to be reading it, okay? And you can see there's some things that I had to scratch out because my understanding, Abba Yahuah started giving me more things. All right, so here's the foreword of the battle at Armageddon. Revelation 19:11 to 21. In this chapter, we will be looking into the day of Yahuah and what will happen once he appears over the earth. So to have a quick overview, the past 6 sequences, it will help us to understand how all these events bring us to the point where we are now. In the first sequence, every person who believes in the Messiah is depicted as having a relationship with him as one of the 7 assemblies. We either have the heart condition of the Ephesians, the Sumerians, the Pergamus, Thyatirian, or Sardinian, or Philadelphian, or Laodicean. As the last 7 years before the Messiah returns, these 7 types will be walking on the Arats with the Ruach HaKodesh in each of them. Once the anti-Messiah is revealed to make shalom, or this peace treaty, and again, pardon me for the stuff that that has some of this Christian understanding here, but there is going to be a treaty between the physical Jews, not the ones who call themselves Jews and are not. So there's going to be a treaty between the Jews and, I should say, many other people. The countdown begins from the day that Yahushua returns to the earth. 7 years would have transpired. After the treaty has been confirmed, the Yahudim will begin to erect. So this is talking about here, what I'm reading here is the Jewish people. Okay. The Jewish people will begin to erect the third temple. This is the false third temple on the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. While the Jews are building this third temple, there will already exist a global government that will be divided into 10 regions. This is the 10 kingdoms. The Messiah, the anti-Messiah, will rise from one of these regions of the earth. The anti-Messiah will subdue 3 of the 10 kings, and he will replace them with 3 of his own. And as time goes on, the anti-Messiah will wage war with countries of the world that won't submit to his authority. And as stated as it was before, it seems that it will have full power. That is, the false Messiah will have full power of NATO, the North Atlantic Treaty Organization. The 10 kings will also submit to him. This is until the final battle at Armageddon. Sometime just before the halfway point, the anti-Messiah will seem to have died by an assassin. However, and I have here the Pope, as I just told you guys earlier, I don't believe it's the Pope anymore, who will be the false prophet, will tell the scientists and the doctors to make an image to the anti-Messiah. Many will believe that the anti-Messiah has somehow resurrected from the dead. All the world will marvel at this man's ability. Once he supposedly resurrects, he will go to the third temple with an army and tell the fake Jews that they are no longer allowed to offer to the mighty one under the old agreement. The false Messiah will forcefully stop the false Jews from their sacrificial service to the mighty one, and he will then acknowledge to the Jews and to the inhabitants of the world that he is the mighty one. And the false prophet will back his claim, and the false Messiah is, and the false Messiah, that is let me see, how did I say that here, will make his claim that the false Messiah is the long-awaited promised Messiah. Once this happens, there will be 3.5 years left of the anti-Messiah's rule. This world ruler will be possessed by Satan, and he will demand worship from every breathing soul-filled human that will be alive at the time of his reign. The false prophet will command every human on the face of the earth that they must accept a chip or a biochip. Whoever doesn't have this mark of the anti-Messiah will not be able to buy or sell anything unless he or she has this mark. It is at that point, let me see that right there, 73, 74, yep. It's at that time or point, those who understand what is happening must flee from every government society into the wilderness, so that the Father, may take care of his people for the next 3.5 years. So many of us know this by what the Messiah says when he says, when you see the abomination of desolation that was spoken by the Nabi Daniel, or the prophet Daniel, he who is in Yehuda, flee, or Judah, flee. Those who are on top of their house, don't go back down to get anything. This is the time to flee. This is the time of vengeance. As stated before, this last 3.5 years is called the Great Tribulation, the time of great testing. For anyone who receives the mark, they will be lost forever. At this point, anyone who refuses to accept the mark will be martyred or unalived for not accepting it. Many bizarre things will begin to happen on the earth, such as water turning to blood, meteor or asteroid hits the sea, the trees burning, the rivers and fresh water becoming contaminated, pestilence or disease running rampant on the earth, the sun becoming very hot, drying up many areas of the earth with drought conditions. And at the halfway point, the 3.5 years, the 144,000 will be taken or raptured from the earth. Also, the two witnesses, possibly Enoch and Elijah, will prophesy for 3.5 years. When will this begin? When will they start their ministry? I don't know. Near the end of the second 3.5 year period, we know that the anti-Messiah will fight against the Muslim countries once he has moved his quarters either from the United States or Western Europe to Jerusalem. He will embark on a mission against them, that is the Muslims. It's at this time that the Euphrates River will be dried up, and to allow the militaries from the East Asia and also from Russia to rendezvous at the Valley of Megiddo. The anti-Messiah will be told about the advancing armies from the north and east, all the while he has his army warring against the Arab alliance. Okay, this is the Muslim countries. The kings of the world will turn on the anti-Messiah, and they will go out to make war against him. However, we know that Satan had prepared all the kings of the earth and their armies for the day of Yahuah. Satan knew that the Messiah was going to return on the day that the armies are gathered together, and that great day of the Messiah's revealing to the world. Let's see. The time has come for him to judge those who are on the earth. Yahusha, I put Yeshua back then. This is when I was starting to come into the truth. Yahusha and the armies of heaven are about to empty out of heaven into this physical realm, and this brings us to where we are now in Revelation chapter 19, verse 11. Resurrection has happened, the 7 last plagues, the wrath of Yahuah has just concluded, Babylon has been destroyed, and the hosts of heaven are rejoicing. Okay, and let's continue. That was 74, 175. Verse 11, now I, John, saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse, and he who sat on him. On this white horse was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he does judge and make war. Yohanan sees the heavenly army coming to earth. That's you and me. The day has come at last to set up his kingdom. He has taken his time to establish his kingdom because of his mercy or grace. His mercy and his long suffering, we're talking about the Messiah. He wished for none to perish, and yet man's time has run out, and it has taken its course for 6,000 years. And then I put here 2 Peter 3:8. We know about that. A day is 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is a day. Yohanan saw the Messiah sitting and riding upon a white horse. Many have come to speculate that this horse that Yahusha is riding may be a unicorn, a one-horned, wing-flying white horse. No one truly knows. Yohanan dispels any misconceptions that might arise as to who this person is. He says that he is called faithful and true. The Mighty One is faithful and truthful about all that he has promised. Yohanan goes on to say, and in righteousness he judges and makes war. Yohanan speaks of Yahusha's right to judge and make war with the nations of the earth. In a sense, Yohanan gives the understanding that the kings of the earth have no just reason for engaging in war, but Yahusha does. The day that Yahuah reveals himself from heaven will be a day of darkness throughout the whole earth. In the second sequence, with the breaking of the sixth seal, we read, quote, and behold, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became like blood, and the stars of heaven fell to the earth. Revelation 6:12-13. And in the fifth sequence, we also read this. Then the fifth angel poured out his bowl, his vial, on the throne of the beast, and his kingdom became full of darkness. Revelation 16:10. All this coincides with the Old Testament prophets. The prophet Zephaniah said this, quote, "The great day of Yahuah is near. The day is a day of wrath or anger, a day of trouble and distress, a day of devastation and desolation, a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness." Zephaniah chapter 1, verses 14 to 15. The prophet Zechariah prophesied this, "It shall come to pass in that day that there will be no light. The lights will diminish." Zechariah 14:6. The prophet Amos spoke this, quote, "Woe to those who desire the day of Yahuah, for what righteousness is it that the day of Yahuah comes to you? It would be darkness and not light. It is the day of Yahuah. Is not the day of Yahuah darkness and not light? Is it not very dark with no brightness in it?" Amos chapter 5, verses 18 and 20. The prophet Joel says this. He spoke about it too. "For the day of Yahuah is coming, for it is at hand, a day of darkness and gloominess, a day of clouds and thick darkness." Joel chapter 2, verse 2. And the Master Yahusha spoke about this same event also, quote, "Immediately after the tribulation of those days," that is the great tribulation, "the sun will be darkened and the moon shall not give its light, and the stars will fall from heaven, and the powers of the Shamayim will be shaken. Then the sign of the son of Adam will appear in the heaven, and then all the tribes of the earth will mourn, and they will see the son of Adam coming in the clouds of heaven with power and great esteem." Matthew chapter 24, verses 29 and 30. Now, verse 12 of chapter 19 of Revelation. And it says, "And his eyes were like the flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns. He had a name written that no one knew except himself." The apostle John, describes what the Messiah looks like at this time of his revealing to the world. Excuse me. As the Messiah pierces the darkness of space, the inhabitants of earth will notice a bright light coming from the deepest parts of space. I put universe. This is before I understood the flat earth. As this sign appears in space, the armies of the earth would have gathered for the final battle of Adamkind. The armies of the world will realize that there is a coming threat from space. And they will know that will they know that it's the Messiah? Probably not. They will think that it's an alien invasion coming to take over the earth. As the Messiah travels through space, the anti-Messiah and his army, along with the other kings and their armies, will join forces instead of warring with one another, and they will shift their attention and their military might to fight together against this new threat coming from space. Revelation 17, verses 12 to 14. Yohanan notices that the Messiah had a name that no one knew except himself. This particular name seems to have never been revealed to Adam's kind, for Yohanan doesn't know this particular name that the Messiah has. Yohanan saw in this future vision how the Messiah's eyes illuminated as fire, and that he wore many crowns on top of his head. Question: how does a person wear more than one crown on their head? Well, we know that the Messiah doesn't have many heads, so what does John see, and what could it be? Two things. Either the base of the crown on the head of the Messiah is the largest one, and then the others are smaller than the next one on top of it, each sitting on top of the other, the larger one below it. Or the Messiah's crowns are hovering over his head and never actually touching the top of his head. The crowns follow his every movement above his head. Verse 13 of chapter 19 of Revelation. He was clothed with a robe dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of Yahuah Elohim. The apostle Yohanan saw that the Messiah's robe was dipped in blood. This blood that John saw was probably the blood that he shed on the cross for the sins of the world. And I put cross, it should be stake. As the apostle John said at the beginning of the book of Revelation, he said, quote, "Behold, he is coming with clouds, and every eye will see him, even they," and I put here Jews, we're talking about the true Jews, "who pierced him, and all the tribes of the earth will mourn because of him. Even so, Amat," Revelation chapter 1, verse 7. The robe dipped in blood, the hands and feet being pierced, is a reminder to all of the world what the Messiah has done for us as sinners in this satanic world. These marks also identify Yahusha and what he has done for us on the stake, so that we may be with him forever, those who have put our trust and have accepted him as our Messiah. And then I put redo, the Word of Yahuah Elohim and the robe dipped in blood are the words to identify the son of Adam, not only to John in his vision. Okay, so now here at Battle of Armageddon. Let's see what I have here. Multiple crowns. Let's go down here. Okay, the armies of heaven, verse 14. And the armies of heaven, clothed in fine linen, white and clean, followed him on white horses. The armies of heaven consist of the set-apart angels and the saints of the Most High, Yahuah Elohim. We, as the Kadashim, will now return the favor to the unrighteous world. The anti-Messiah waged war with the saints, and he overcame them with physical death for not wanting to accept the mark. But now, at this point, we as the Kadashim, we wage war against all those who have the mark. The apostle Yahudah, who they named Jude, reaffirms what was said by the prophet Enoch, the seventh man from Adam. Quote, behold, Yahuah comes with 10,000 of his saints, or Kadashim, to execute judgment on all, to convict all who are unrighteous, among them all their unrighteous deeds that they unrighteously have committed in an unrighteous way, and all that harsh things that unrighteous sinners have spoken against him. Yahudah chapter 1 verses 14 and 15. As Yahuah rides on his white horse, so are all those who follow him. The Kadashim, the saints, are said to be dressed in fine linen and white and clean, meaning how the saints, the Kadashim, have been washed in the blood of the Messiah. The apostle Shaul, aka Paul, says it best. As we have been born of the image of the man of dust, we shall also bear the image of the heavenly man. 1 Corinthians chapter 15 verse 49. Okay, chapter 19, verse 15 of Revelation. Now out of his mouth goes a sharp sword, and with it he should strike the nations, and he himself shall rule them with a rod of iron. He himself treads the winepress of the fierceness of the wrath of the Almighty Yahuah Elohim. The words that proceed from the mouth of the Messiah is a sharp sword. Quote, for the word of Yahuah is living and powerful and sharper than any two-edged sword, piercing even to the division of the being and to the spirit, and is a discerner of the thoughts and intents of the hearts. Hebrews chapter 14, verse 12. Shaul, Paul also says that the Messiah will destroy the anti-Messiah in this way, quote, and then the lawless one will be revealed, whom the Messiah will consume with the breath or speech of his mouth, and destroy with the brightness of his coming. 2 Thessalonians chapter 2, verse 8. So the Messiah will give a command to his